Hey, welcome in everybody. It is Let's Talk Live here on the LTL Media channel. We're back live. It's Wednesday night, June 19th, 2024. And we're going to watch real experts this evening versus unqualified experts. I don't know. Welcome in everybody. I've had an absolutely horrible day. I could not be more angry right now. But I'm trying to get through it and smile. Yeah, it was not a good day at work for me. And I'm getting just to about here with my work situation right now. Probably about here. Yeah. Just one of those types of bosses. And if I would have known this 9 months ago, I wouldn't be here. So thank you very much. Anyway, welcome in. I'm in a nasty mood tonight. I'm in a nasty mood. I'm amped. I'm all amped up today. Breathe deep. And this too shall pass, right? Yeah. Anyway. So let's get into this live tonight. We're going to watch the voir dire from the other day, the defense experts, and we had Dr. Marie Russell testify. We had Daniel Wolf and Andrew, and I'm going to probably say his name wrong. Was it Rents? What was it? Rents? I'm not going to get this out. Rensler? I think I have it right. I might have said that wrong. But and these from Archer, two gentlemen from Archer. One I think was like the CEO and has testified in multiple cases and had all the qualifications in physics and sub-physics that Trooper Paul said that he had because he took a couple of classes. But when these guys get up there, you can actually tell that they are 100% experts in the field of physics. Their qualifications just blow Trooper Paul out of the water. And I just, find it very fascinating when this all goes down and this gets said in front of the jury. If they're allowed to testify, which they should be allowed to testify, I think it's going to be a huge impact in this case. I mean, you literally have two qualified physics experts that's going to say essentially that the damage to Karen Reed's SUV is not consistent with hitting Officer John O'Keefe, and vice versa. The damage to Officer John O'Keefe is not consistent with being hit by Karen Reed's SUV. I mean, there you go. I mean, these are experts. And I love the fact that Jackson got it on the record that I didn't hire you. The Commonwealth didn't hire you. So who hired them? Well, that would be the Department of Justice and the FBI. So good stuff overall there. And, we had Marie Russell, the dog bite expert that testified first. And I know Judge Bev is probably going to fight this or maybe only allow certain aspects that can be brought up in this testimony. Like, look, let's give her a little bit of credit here, okay? She just flew in from California. She just got off the plane. She did not meet with Alan Jackson. They had established that during the voir dire. She probably wasn't completely ready for testimony. It was kind of like, oh, here you are. Hi, how are you? I'm Alan Jackson. Look, let's go to the courthouse. So, did it come off probably the best testimony? Not really. But I'll be honest with you. And I said this in a tweet, I believe yesterday. I said, look, or even this morning, I said, listen, even if Dr. Russell is not allowed to testify, which in my opinion, and I actually tweeted at Mark Betterow about this. I said, do you think that they actually need her testimony to win over the jurors? And Mark Betterow said, tweeted back, he said, it's not necessary, but it would still be good. And honestly, I think that the Commonwealth, I think the defense has done an amazing job so far. In my opinion, I don't think they really need her. I mean, I think that they've established clearly what's going on in this case. from a defense standpoint. And I have to say, the Commonwealth, I'm still waiting. We're 8 weeks in. I haven't seen one piece of evidence that leads me in the direction to absolutely 100% convince me that Karen Reed hit and killed Officer John O'Keefe. I mean, we clearly saw that Trooper Paul's explanation. This is the guy that they waited for almost 8 weeks to get up on the stand and was literally shredded just by logic, not even by his own formulas and how he got to the conclusion. Literally, Alan Jackson used the most simple thing to cross-examine Trooper Paul, and that literally is just logic, the basis of logic. It just didn't make sense, and it was a complete, utter bunch of bullshit that he spit out there, and I knew he was going to get crushed in 2 seconds, and Alan Jackson showed that. So anyway, we'll get into the voir dire, but first what I want to do is talk about this completely laughable segment on News Nation. I believe this dropped last night. Oh boy, I guess David Yannetti is the Commonwealth. I guess he's trying Karen Reed. He's playing multiple duties here. He's a defense lawyer and a prosecution, and for the prosecution, and I guess prosecuting Karen Reed as well. But we'll watch this kind of laughable segment here, and I actually tweeted at News Nation. I say, look, if you're going to have experts on about the case, at least inform them and make it kind of seem like they know what's going on in this case. But I found this to be laughable, and we'll check this out.
Here's the thing, though. Despite the apparent faults of Proctor, there is a case here. Prosecutors say Reed hit O'Keefe with her SUV, left him for dead after a night drinking, and her vehicle's taillight was broken, and pieces of the taillight were found outside of the house that she dropped O'Keefe off at. And there's also claims she confessed to hitting him. And there's other evidence, too. So the question is, should she testify? Well, joining me right now is Jarrett Ferrantino, a former homicide prosecutor with over 20 years of experience and host of True Crime Boss. He has been following
20 years of experience. You think he probably would get the who's and whats of this case locked down. I mean, was this guy like the substitute? Let's just call him and get him in. They didn't even watch this. They didn't even brief this guy. Didn't even give him a memo. He's not even paying any attention to the Karen Reed case, and they come up and ask him about his expert opinion in this. It's almost laughable.
Story very closely. Look, you asked me, Reed wants to testify. I think she's raised enough reasonable doubt at this point about the investigation, the outcome, where she doesn't need to. But what do you think?
First of all, I'm sweating watching that Proctor testimony back again. Great to see you, Jesse. I think that the risk isn't worth the reward. If you're watching this trial and keeping score, the defense is already up. They've punched enough holes. They've got their narrative out there, and they haven't even started yet. I mean, we're still on the Commonwealth's case. And in my opinion, they've raised enough reasonable doubt that the Commonwealth is coming in behind. Now they're going to call their experts, and the big question is whether or not they need Karen. Karen's testimony and her version of events is already out there. You don't need her to tell her story. And look,
let me ask you that. Jared, because she says she wants to fill in some holes, correct some lies. What do you think those are?
Well, I think she wants the opportunity to explain some of what was said about maybe the fact that she is claimed to have said she hit him, some of the things that have been said about her and this whole thing, and fill in some lies. But the reality is there's a little deflection there. She's saying it's her attorney's decision to make the call. She's really not owning the fact that it's probably not in her best interest, and ultimately she's going to be the one to make the call.
Now, look, the prosecution, as I said, they do have a case. I want to put this up. This is going to be on FS1. This is full screen one. Because jurors on Monday, they were shown these text messages between Reed and O'Keefe. This was the morning before his death. You have really hurt me this time. Tell me if you're interested in someone else. Then this is number 2. These are more texts. Can you please admit your head is out of the game with us? O'Keefe responds, sick of always arguing and fighting. It's been weekly for several months now. So now you have this idea of a motive. You have the idea.
What is the fucking motive? I don't get what the motive is. Like, I literally don't see a motive. What is the motive there? They had an argument. And if anything, Karen Reed sounds hurt. Look, we've been going through this cycle. We're having these arguments. Things are not working out. I mean, what is the motive? You think that because she got in an argument, I'm going to get him tonight. This is the night I'm going to get him. he's going to get out and I'm going to pull up 62 feet and ram on that accelerator and reverse and bam, I'm going to leave. You got to be kidding me. There's got to be something more there. I mean, come on. What is now you have a motive. Now you have a motive. What fucking motive? What is the motive? They had an argument? And then she just methodically twisted her mustache and went, ooh, I'm going to get him tonight. That actually makes no sense. But believe me, this gets better.
That she, remember when they're driving around the morning after, she knew automatically where he was. She spotted his body before anybody else she was riding along with. So there's some evidence here that she did it.
Well, now, maybe the fact that she was out panicking since he didn't come home and you're on alert, all your senses are on alert and you're looking everywhere and you know that the last spot that you brought him and dropped him off was probably right at that spot where she dropped him off, 34 Fairview. I know that I dropped him off there and he's going to probably walk in the house and see some people in there because that's where you wanted to go. So sure, I'd be on heightened alert when I went back to the last place that I dropped my significant other off at. Of course. I know this is literally the last spot that I saw my significant other. You wouldn't be on heightened alert looking for that person that you're looking for? Of course you would. Of course you would. She was panicking. She called him like 50-something times. Where are you?
Could be all this other stuff about the investigation and problems with the investigator, but the prosecution does have a relatively strong case, no?
They do, but given those texts, if Karen Reed gets back up there, she may be able to explain them, but when Yannetti gets back up, the DA, he gets to cross-examine and hammer her on those texts. So the jury's going to continue to hear them. Here's the other thing I noticed about Karen Reed. She has a tough time holding her emotions in check. She's very expressive in court. And the reality is Yannetti's going to try to get a rise out of her, to get her emotional, maybe say something that she hasn't rehearsed or that is more spontaneous. And that's something that could end up.
So Yannetti's pulling double duty. He defends Karen Reed and then he prosecutes her. Okay.
Hurting her. That's the risk with putting Karen Reed on the stand here.
Real quick, 15 seconds. The defense wants to call an expert about apparent dog bites, that O'Keefe might have gotten attacked by a dog, not that he was hit by a car. Thoughts real quick?
My thoughts are, if they could get an expert on there with a straight face to say the wounds on O'Keefe are consistent with a dog bite or a scratch, it's going to help their case. It's just chipping away at the Commonwealth.
It's a roller coaster. I'm flip-flopping every second on this one. As a juror,
so
should be too, maybe.
Jesse.
Yep. There we go. Jared Ferrantino, good to see you. Thanks for coming on.
All right, don't come back because you don't know the case. We don't want to hear from you again. Get that guy some notes. Get that man some notes. All right, Karen spoke outside of court the other day. Let's hear that about testifying in her own defense.
There is no case against me. After 8 weeks. After 8 weeks, it's smoke and mirrors, and it's going through my private life and trying to contrive a motive that was never there.
Have you thought about what it would be like to be on the witness stand yourself?
Yeah, I have. I'd like to fill in some holes and correct some lies, but it's up to the attorneys, and they'll make the call probably at the 11th hour, and I'm there or not there.
You're lobbying, though, for your chance to testify?
I'm an outspoken person, and I've never not been able to speak up for myself and my defense, except when it matters the most. I've got to rely on them and their expertise, and I'll defer to the attorneys.
Okay. I'm going to ask you all in the room, and I'll give you my opinion before I ask. Here's my opinion on Karen Reed testifying. I don't think she needs to. I don't think she needs to. I think the defense has sunk the Commonwealth's case in the last 8 weeks. Now, let me ask all of you, and be honest. Do you think that Karen Reed should testify? If you think she should, put a 1 in the chat. If you think that she shouldn't, put a 2 in the chat. Or how about this? If you think that she doesn't need to, let's put a 1 in the chat if you think she needs to, or a 2 in the chat if you don't think that she needs to. Let's see. I don't think she needs to. Personally, I don't think she needs to. She doesn't need to testify. A lot of 2s. I think it's going to be the majority of 2s. So 2 is winning. Some 8s. We've seen some 3s. Creative. Creative. A lot of 2s. A lot of 2s. All right. I don't think that she needs to. Let's play this a little bit, and then we'll get into the voir dire.
And she has told me off camera several times that she is prepared for her defense case to begin. She's been waiting for more than a year and a half for this moment, and she's ready to take the stand if her attorneys feel that she should.
All right, Matt Johnson, thank you for that live report there in Dedham, Massachusetts.
All right, let's get to the voir dire. But first, what I want to do before we do that, we have to go back to expert crime scene whisperer, Trooper Paul, and let's hear Alan Jackson ask him, how did you reconstruct the scene? So I want to hear the Commonwealth's expert, reconstruction expert, and then we're going to get to hear the qualifications of the defense's experts. Here we go.
They're exactly equal in all respects under the principles of physics, right? That's the theory of the conservation of momentum. Momentum doesn't change. It's transferred from one body to another.
Yes.
Correct?
Correct.
Why didn't you say that to the jurors?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Trooper Paul, if you were qualified to, quote, look into all this stuff, you would probably know these answers, wouldn't you?
Objection.
Sustained.
Are there any other calculations that you need to figure out the stuff that you were talking to about with the grand jury?
Objection.
Sustained.
So bad.
How about calculating the final velocity of the objects after the collision? That be important?
What objects?
That would be John O'Keefe's body, sir.
The
Object
I don't.
you claimed was flying through the air 30 feet.
Objection.
Sustained.
How about calculating the display?
All right, CPU mod 1. It's going to kick it off tonight with a $10. Just let everybody know, 25% of all donations tonight will get kicked back to Karen Reed's defense fund. It's been kind of a recurring theme here on my channel, but I want to just pull this up. Thank you for the $10. We'd like to try to at least get to $50 kicked back to Karen Reed. And if it doesn't, then we just carry that over in the next streams until we get that total past 50. So it says, thank you for your continued coverage of this case. I love you. Love your authenticity and your passion for Karen, expert. You are amazing. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And 25% of that donation will go back to Karen Reed. I appreciate that. And then Donna's coming in with a $1.99er. And thank you for the super stickers. We'll round that up to $2. So we have $12 total so far. All right, let's hear a little bit more of this, and then we'll go to the voir dire.
Displacement using kinematic equations. Would you be able to do that?
The displacement of the body.
In order to calculate how far the body would move based on the mass of the object striking the body, could you use displacement using kinematic equations?
So, like I said before, the side swipe, he would not have gotten 100% of the vehicle, 100% of the speed of the striking vehicle. It would have vastly underestimated this vehicle. You couldn't hit a person and side swipe them, spin them off to the side, and have that and get a speed from those calculations.
So you're saying that the discipline of physics cannot figure out how far John O'Keefe's body would move, but you personally figured out that he would have flown now somewhat, or been projected somewhat 30 feet.
Objection.
Sustained.
Are you saying that the principles of physics are incapable of determining with the proper calculations how far John O'Keefe's body would have moved given the collision at issue?
Objection.
Is that
Linda,
what you're
thank
saying,
you so much
Trooper?
for the super sticker.
No.
Okay,
Thank
next
you.
question.
Well, you just said because it was a side swipe, all these calculations, these physics calculations are inapplicable, right?
I'm saying it would underestimate the speed and the distance.
The truth is, Trooper Paul, you have no idea what all these physics calculations mean, do you?
Yeah.
Objection.
Sustained.
You've not been trained in physics formally, have you?
Yes.
You have been,
It's incorporated into the classes.
right? You had a few classes. that use the word physics, but you haven't been formally trained in physics, have
Objection.
Sustained.
Oh,
you? You haven't been formally trained in kinematics, correct?
It's in the aspects of all.
You know, and the funny thing is, you know, when we start doing this cross comparison, okay, the Department of Justice and the FBI reached out to ARCA, and this is how trained and qualified they are in physics in the subdivisions of physics. Okay, this is how trained they are. They work with the military. I believe that they said they work either with the NFL or NHL. They did some redesigning on helmets, and they actually designed, and you'll hear this, I think it was Daniel Wolf that talked about this. They designed a piece of equipment or redesigned the Humvees that go over and find IEDs, and they designed those vehicles to be more efficient and to be able to withstand, you know, the impact and explosions from IEDs. So it would take all that stress off the human body during war. Yeah, redesign the hockey rink. Thank you. I knew it was something like that. And thank you for chiming that in. To make it safer, to take off stress on the human body when they hit the boards or get slammed into the boards, and then redesigning the pieces of equipment, the Humvees that go out and search out IEDs. So, you know, that's how trained these guys are in mechanics, biomechanics, and in physics, and all of the subdivisions of physics. It's pretty impressive stuff. M.E. Lennon, $10. Thank you. So why would the state set these witnesses up to be slaughtered? Their fault for pushing this ridiculous case. Well, it's all they got. It's all they got. And we know the theme of all this is the smoke and mirrors. Let's throw a whole bunch of people up there, call 200 witnesses to the stand. Let's burn out the jury. We'll throw a bunch of people up there that say that they're qualified and look like they're qualified because they're for the Commonwealth. And maybe this will slip past the jury and they won't see it. Well, listen, Alan Jackson, David Yannetti, Liz Little are a lot smarter than what the Commonwealth is trying to put out there. I mean, bottom line, we've seen it for the past 8 weeks. You know, I have to ask you, have you seen one thing that points in the direction that Karen Read did this? There's not one thing that has convinced me yet. Okay, let's play a little bit more and then we'll go to the voir dire.
Or crash reconstruction classes.
You haven't been formally trained and hold no degrees in biomechanics, do you?
I do not have a degree in biomechanics.
Glenda, thank you so much for the Cash App. $40 Cash App. $40 Cash App. I appreciate that. Appreciate the support. Thank you. Thank you so much. We'll add that to the total.
In fact, basically what you did in this case was calculated ignition cycles. And you got those wrong.
Well, by the way, I will be
Sustained.
back.
Come on, Mr. Jackson, ask the
Friday.
appropriate part of the question, you'll get it.
We'll start getting some live guests in there finally. That's nerves.
Let me ask you this. Based on your reconstruction, nearly 2-year investigation, exactly how was that taillight shattered?
Oh, here we
Explain to
go.
us.
How does the taillight? What do you? It gets so the taillight in this case was shattered when it was struck John O'Keefe's arm.
Exactly what part of his arm?
Based on what I saw for his injuries, was from the upper part of his arm down.
Was his arm out? It just struck the arm like a hinge? Was it in front of him? You
Yes,
did the
finally.
reconstruction?
It looked,
Here's exactly how his body was positioned when he was struck by that.
Thank you for the 499ers for sending support from New Jersey. Keep the pressure on the Commonwealth. Truth will prepare and hashtag free Karen Read. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Let's go.
so it looks like his arm was more
It's ridiculous.
kind of like this. If I can try to get that.
Yes, the crime scene
You're
whisperer.
indicating out by his side, correct?
Yes.
All right. And the taillight would have struck his arm, right?
Yes.
Not his torso.
Yes.
Okay. So the full mass, the full weight of that truck hit him basically at the elbow. Is that right?
No,
Missing his
no.
torso.
But I said it's from upper part of the arm
Right.
down.
The
Yeah.
elbow and the biceps.
I didn't see anything
I
that
agree,
shows
Peggy.
an indication that this lower torso was struck, but
Okay. So his torso,
it's not saying it could not have been a possibility, but I just didn't see anything.
so his torso was spared
Oh,
from
thank
being
you.
hit,
Yes,
but the
thank
arm
you.
took the brunt, the full force of the vehicle, correct?
Like arm and shoulder. Yes.
Okay.
Oh,
And you said he then did a spin,
I love this.
like a sort of a
A
pirouette.
pirouette.
He got spun around possibly the way he struck, it looks like it could have turned around counterclockwise.
Okay. So if he turns around
I love
counterclockwise,
this.
is he turning around in the air counterclockwise?
This is the Michael
Yes.
Jackson move.
Initially.
So he gets hit on the upper biceps, shoulder area, and down to the forearm, right?
Yes.
By an unbroken taillight, right?
Yes.
In other words, it's nice and smooth. No shards of plastic or anything broken at the time that it made contact with his arm, right?
Correct.
Okay, so how does his arm get all cut up?
Because when his arm struck the taillight then cracked. And as the car is driving past him, the taillight could scratch it.
Right here.
So
Here we go.
he gets hit by the car, not his
Michael
torso,
Jackson.
just the arm. The taillight cracks, and as it passes by, his arm stays with it long enough to get striations, those
So
scratches
ridiculous.
that you see, those lacerations. I'm sorry, those abrasions, that you see, right?
In a sense, yes.
And at the same time, he does a pirouette and flies 30 feet.
This is so
to his spinal
ridiculous.
polypress.
I don't know if he did a pirouette.
Well, I'm using the word pirouette. He spun around.
He started rotating counterclockwise.
Tanya
I don't know how
Harding.
far he ran counterclockwise, but he started rotating. According to that, would push him to rotate
He's like, oh, got it.
counterclockwise. Whether or not he went
Got it.
counterclockwise all the way to his back toward the ground, it seems like a most likely possibility.
Got it.
Did you
Got
account
it.
for the fact that his arm is on a hinge?
Is what? Say again?
Did you account for the fact in this scenario that you just told the jurors that his arm is on a hinge?
That's a hinge.
On a
On his
hinge.
shoulder?
Okay.
Yeah,
Right?
that's a
So,
hinge. This is a hinge. That's
arm
a
got
hinge.
hit. Didn't his arm just swing?
Cartwheels of
I
death.
said arm and shoulder area, so his arm could have been considered part of it.
Even if his shoulder got
Yeah.
Okay.
pointing to his upper biceps.
Mhm.
Right? There's no injuries on his shoulder, not a single one, not even a bruise, right?
Like I said, it looked like to me it was from up here. I don't know how far I can up back here, but it was up here.
Well,
So
you're the one that talked about his injuries on his arm.
yes.
Oh,
That's limited to about mid biceps, to about mid forearm, correct?
Okay.
Right?
yeah. I mean,
Yes.
he's asking
No
you.
injuries on the shoulder, no injuries on the torso, no injuries on the ribs, no injuries on the back, correct? Is that right?
Yes.
So your theory is he got hit on the arm, took the brunt of the force from the taillight on the arm, stayed with the vehicle long enough
He'll spin
for
again.
the taillight to explode, basically
Explode.
to shatter.
Right.
Then these striations get on his arm, abrasions.
This is so ridiculous.
Does a pirouette, spin counterclockwise, and flies 30 feet in the air to his point of rest.
Yeah.
Triple
Probably
what?
a little
Yeah.
faster than that though.
Okay, I've had enough. Let's go to the board here. Let's go to the board here. And we're going to start out with an argument from Auntie Bev. By the way, we just passed 27,000 subscribers here on the LTL Media channel. Thank you so much for joining the channel, joining these lives, and hanging out with us. I really do appreciate it. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. Love it. Love it. Love it. All right, let's keep playing here. Here we go. Voir dire.
Sorry, I could not hear you.
I would like to hear from Dr. Russell first. Is that her name?
Russell. Dr. Russell, yes. The order would be, I would propose based on scheduling Dr. Russell, Dr. Wolf, Dr. Racer.
Thank you.
Okay, then that's good.
Close now session. 22-117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
The prosecution, everything that we need to provide to them in terms of disclosure. They've got the equivalent of a report. They've got a summary of what she's going to testify to.
When was that provided? My order was 1 week from the start of trial, right?
But we didn't, Your Honor, in fairness, they didn't even finish their discovery
Wheels
1
of
week
wisdom.
before the start of trial. So it's a little unfair for us to be put on the
1 week from the filing of the certificate of compliance.
Well, I don't know when there's, I can't remember. My co-counsel indication is the day before trial.
Okay,
So during the course of, look, trial is a dynamic thing. During the course of the trial, I did not know who Dr. Marie Russell was at the time that they filed their certificate of trials.
Maybe.
We then attempted to and did
Maybe.
give them the reciprocal discovery that we were obligated to do after they filed their certificate of compliance.
When?
Within 3 days of that. We had been giving them information prior to that, but at least within 3 days of that.
I think she's gonna fight him. I think she's gonna fight them on Russell. But I'm gonna be honest with you. I think for me, the nail in the coffin to the Commonwealth's theory is those two gentlemen from ARCA, because they're gonna smoke Trooper Paul's, reconstruction of events. They're gonna smoke it because these guys know physics and all of the subdivisions around physics, biomechanics, everything. I mean, for Christ's sakes, they work with the military. They design things for the military. I mean, to me, that is the nail in the coffin, and that's gonna just smoke everything. Toots gifted 10 memberships. That is $50. So we'll add the 50 to the total tonight. Yes, that's right. Grant's Pants has been around since like 250 subs back in when I was first starting out with the Idaho case. Okay. Let's keep rolling here.
We've continued, so the record's clear, we've continued to get additional discovery from the Commonwealth in notices of discovery throughout the trial. They have not finished. In fact, during the trial, they interviewed Jen McCabe, apparently, had a full interview with her. Lieutenant Tully took a report, dated the report, and then they held on to that report until after she testified. The interview, the report, and the completion of the report were all done before her testimony.
Do you need to call her again?
Your Honor, that's not my, and I think the court understands, that's not my point. My point is not, I need to call Jennifer McCabe back. I've done the damage that needs to be done on Jennifer McCabe. The point is,
I'm sorry, I missed that. You've what?
I've done the damage that needed to be done on Jennifer McCabe. I don't need to call her back. The point is that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. The Commonwealth doesn't get to stand in the position of piecemealing and feeding us information, reports, discovery throughout the course of the trial. And by the way,
hold at the top, and I am asking, out of the two defense experts, which one will sink the Commonwealth's theory, Dr. Russell or the ARCA experts?
when we then got seminal information about an expert that we did not know about, never met, never heard of, within 3 days of that, we provide everything that we have about that witness to the Commonwealth. They can't then turn around and say, oh, well, it's all the defense's fault. So we want to have a voir dire, which means that the euphemism for that voir dire is we want to have two bites at the apple.
Okay.
We want to be able to completely cross-examine her, then go back to our expert. And if she testifies, cross-examine her again after consulting with our expert. That's two bites at the apple, and that's not fair. If the court wants to hear whether or not Dr. Marie Russell is qualified to testify about the arm injuries, that, I believe, is the parameters, the proper parameters of the voir dire, and that's what I'm prepared to do today. But I wasn't planning on getting into the substance of her testimony because that's been provided. And I don't think Mr. Lally should be able to get into the substance of her testimony because he knows what the substance is because, like I said, that's been provided.
All right, so I disagree. I'm going to hear from the Commonwealth on this. So Ms. McLaughlin or Mr. Lally?
Thank you for being an awesome moderator, by the way.
Your Honor, just briefly in regard to what counsel was referencing with Ms. McCabe, it was not a full interview by Lieutenant Tully. It was and I can give, I'm
going to be honest with you. I think with the bite expert, okay, I think there's more, and I don't know the word I'm looking for right now. I think it's going to be, I'm trying not to state this and say this wrong, but I think it's going to be, because I think there's more variables with the bite expert than good data physics. Like, if they can come up with a diagram or a what's the word I'm looking for? A reconstruction video and show this jury why the Commonwealth's theory or Trooper Paul's theory is complete bullshit, it's going to sink everything. So I think with the bite expert, it might be a little bit harder as there's more variables there than I think. And this is just my opinion, and you might disagree with me, and that's fine. But I think reconstructing that accident scene, the accident scene, the way that the Commonwealth is saying, reconstructing it and showing the jury there's no way possible with the angles and the way that things are, I think that's going to completely sink and nail all this down. And Scott is agreeing with me. He says, Brian, I think the ARCR experts are more important than dog bites, because if you can show that jury that there's no flipping way with any position that John, I mean, you got to think about it. These people work with the military. They live, their business is based on physics. Their business is based on design. Their business is based on numbers and factors and truth in what they do. Because if they don't do something correctly, someone could get hurt or someone could potentially die. So in my opinion, I think it's much more important to have their testimony. And you got to think about this too. They're experts that weren't hired by the defense nor the Commonwealth. And I'm telling you right now, ADA Lally is shitting his pants if those experts get up on the stand, because it's fucking game over. It is game over. What do they call it? Lock, stock, and barrel. Game fucking over. I'm telling you. Because if they get up and they reconstruct this scene and they say, I'm going to give you all the angles and we put in all our calculations and we have the software to do it, or however they come up with the determination using math, and they show this jury there's no way that this could have happened, it's over. I'm telling you, it's absolutely over. All right, let me go back up here. I saw a couple of super duper duper chats come in. Did I miss one? Connie, thank you so much for the $50 super sticker. I appreciate that support. We will add that to the total. And 25% of all donations tonight will go to Karen Reed's Defense Fund. All right, let's keep playing here.
I have it on me at this moment, but I can give the court a copy of that report. But essentially, it was Ms. McCabe met with Lieutenant Tully, looked at some video, and was asked a single question. That report wasn't available. I didn't have it until after Ms. McCabe testified, but it was given to counsel prior to Lieutenant Tully testifying, and there were no questions asked of Lieutenant Tully in regards to that. My issue, and you know, I wasn't asking for a voir dire as it proposed to,
Beverly, thank you for the $20 in Cash App. She says, thank you, Brian, for all that you do. Love your channel and always look forward to watching. Keep up the great work and free Karen Reed. Thank you. That was very nice. I appreciate that. Thank you. Let's see. Getting some things in. My dad is texting me. Okay, let's go.
Relates to Dr. Russell is that we first heard of Dr. Russell on May 21st, which was, I think, 6 weeks into trial.
Right, so that's what I asked, and you told me it was 3 days after the beginning of trial, Mr. Jackson.
No, I said this to sidebar the other day.
Because you want to win. You want to win. That's what he wants to do. He wants to win for the state. Of course, he's going to shit his pants when those experts get up there. We've heard him on the hot mic before, saying things on the hot mic. He said it back a couple of weeks ago. He was caught on hot mic going like, Jesus Christ, or something like that. He knows this dude will get fired. This totally rests on him.
Commonwealth and the court know about Dr. Marie Russell 3 days after I learned about her, which was the 17th of May. I think it was the 17th of May. I had never heard of her. I didn't know who she was. We made contact. I determined that she would be useful for the jury in terms of specifically the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm. I then had one conversation with her, then immediately, within 3 days of that, turned that information over to the prosecution. So I didn't say that I gave this over 3 days into trial. That's not what I said.
All right, but you were ordered to do it. Ms. Giannetti, what was the date? You had 1 week from when?
The day before trial. So it would have been, I believe, April 15th. So what we knew as of that day, we were required to turn over.
Real quick, just do this for me. You've got about 921 people in here. Do me a favor, super free. It's takes 3 seconds to, like, less than 3 seconds to do. Go down there and just smash the like button. Let's try to get to like at least like 500 likes before this stream ends. That helps push this out into the algorithm and get more people in here so they can start learning the truth about the Karen Reed case. All right, let's keep playing on here.
I need to take a quick recess.
All right, this was like the quickest, weirdest recess I ever saw. It's only like 5 seconds, which is weird. All right, let's speed this up. Let's get Russell up there. All right, hang on. Jackson's going to speak.
I just to close the loop on the record, my understanding, and this Little can probably speak to this more intelligently than I can, but during the middle of trial, there was a witness that we had never heard of, we did not know and didn't have a report for.
Who is that?
Dr. Fowler, F-A-L-L-E-R.
Okay.
If the court remembers, he's buried in the middle of about 75 witnesses. So he testified to alcohol levels, et cetera, and protocols at the institution at Good Samaritan. And we didn't have that information either. We didn't throw a fit. They said we were going to provide this information in a timely fashion as soon as we know that we're going to call him. He's got to be on our witness list. We didn't know one way or the other what he was going to say. We didn't have a report, and we went on about our business. That's what we were doing as well. And by the way, I would note that the notes and report under Rule 14 require disclosure of information you have. I just don't want the court to think that we were sitting on information that we didn't turn over.
No, I'm not saying that. It's just, this isn't as if it was something that the Commonwealth brought up and you needed to scramble. This is entirely of the defense position. So
I understand.
All right, so that's the big difference. So why don't you go ahead and call her?
Okay, may I be excused to call her?
Yes.
Oh, by the way, Friday night at 8 p.m., Jess Machado will be joining me for our weekly in-courtroom update. And I'm working on some other streams, upcoming streams. It's just everybody's been so busy. So I promise I'm going to continue to work on some other things. But please come join me 8 p.m. on Friday night. Jess Machado will do her weekly check-in, and I can't wait. She'll be back in court tomorrow and Friday. So I can't wait.
Doctor, I'm just going to ask that you be mindful to step up.
All right, let's get past.
I started at MIT.
So I'm going to just kind of buzz through her qualifications. I want to get to the information about how she got introduced to this case. So let's just speed up a little bit here.
Lindsay, tell me about that.
Okay, so I still realized I had an interest in forensics, and they were oftentimes usually seen by the intern or resident.
Even after you left the Los Angeles coroner's office as a fellow, did you continue to stay in contact with the coroner's office and have relationship with the coroner's office as a supervising physician?
I continued to stay in contact with the coroner's office, and I used to attend their conferences as often as I could, not as a supervising physician, but as a physician and a graduate of their program.
During your tenure at LAUSC, did you ever become the director of any programs at LAUSC?
Yes.
Does that include the director of Center for Life Support Training?
Yes.
What years was that, if you remember?
I don't remember that.
Early 2000s, late 90s?
Yes, that sounds about right.
Okay.
And we would conduct lots of courses, including trauma, life support courses.
Did LAUSC incorporate a quality improvement program?
Yes.
Within their institution?
Yes.
Did you become a director of that as well?
Yes.
So you were director of Center for Life Support Training and director of LAUSC Medical Center Quality Improvement. Is that right?
The quality improvement was for the emergency department. Yes.
And
then you know what's kind of crazy too? Come to find out, there's not many people out there that are expert in dog bite Why am I feeling like there should be another word there? There are not many experts out there in dog bite. Add a word. I don't know, but you know what I'm getting at. And I didn't know that. And it's crazy. At the end, we hear Bev goes, well, how long will you be able to get an expert? And Lally says, about a week. And I'm like, oh, we have to drag this out for another week if Dr. Russell has to testify, because they got to have someone that comes up and stands for the Commonwealth here. So, yeah, I didn't know that. Dog bite theories or really theory analysis. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Analysis. Thank you. That's what I meant. Or expertise. That's another good one. But I didn't know that. I thought there would be a lot more people out there. I mean, she literally wrote the handbook on this stuff. It's pretty impressive.
Did you also become the director for jail medical services?
Yes.
What is the association between LAUSC and the very, very expansive jail system in Los Angeles County?
See, now what Bev is trying to connect is this. Well, Alan Jackson's out from California. Well, Alan Jackson probably tries a lot of cases out in LA County. So he had to have something in on this to get this lady to come out. And clearly it wasn't. It was actually someone that reached out to Alan Jackson and said, hey, I was contacted by a former coworker or a friend that might know something about this. She's an expert in dog bite analysis, and she might be helpful to this case. It wasn't like Alan Jackson went out and started seeking Dr. Russell out. She came to them. And then, Lally tried to cut her down, essentially asking her if she had Herald or Globe subscriptions, just stupid stuff. Because she, they're trying to establish, was she following the case, and then knew that there was a dog bite theory in this, and that's when she reached out. That's clearly
so LA County Hospital was unique in that they many years ago developed a jail, what they called a jail ward, which was a combined inpatient.
National Association of Medical Examiners.
Yes.
Are you a member of the American Academy of Forensic Science?
Yes.
Do you have any publications in the area? And I'm going to be very specific because you've been relatively widely published. Is that right?
Some people would say yes. Some people would say no.
More than a couple of publications.
Correct.
And peer-reviewed journals, correct?
Yes.
I want to focus your attention on animal injuries. Have you been published in the area of animal injuries specifically?
Yes.
Do you recall those publications?
Yes, they had to do with law enforcement dog bites.
Did you draft an article or co-author an article called Managing Law Enforcement Dog Bites in the ER?
Yes, I was a co-author.
1996?
Sounds right.
And that was a peer-reviewed article?
Yes.
Ultimately published?
Yes.
And ultimately available to be cited by other doctors and studied by other doctors, correct?
Correct.
Did you also author
thank you so much for your
an
membership.
article entitled Law Enforcement Canine Dog Bites, Injuries, Complications, and Trends?
Yes, I did.
Is that in 1997?
Sounds right.
Was that also peer-reviewed?
Yes.
And that publication was also available for other physicians throughout California and throughout the country to refer to for the study of animal bites and dog bites, correct?
Dog bites, yes.
Dog bites. Concerning animal injuries, during the course of your professional experience, how many patients have you seen, diagnosed, and or treated with animal injuries, including dog bites and scratches, if you had to estimate?
Many hundreds.
Would you say it's over or under 1,000?
I would say it's over 500. I don't know because we didn't keep really good records back in the earlier days.
But it's safe to say you've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dog bites and scratches.
Yes, in my 29 years at LA County Hospital, yes. And my dog bites I took care of and dog bites that the residents took care of, yes.
And you've even published articles and studied, not just seen them, but studied dog bites and dog wounds, correct?
Yes.
Have you qualified as an expert previously in other courts as in emergency medicine?
Yes.
Have you qualified as an expert in other courts in forensic pathology and wounds?
Yes.
Has that been in both state and federal court?
Yes.
Doctor, were you asked to review certain materials related to this case?
Yes.
And that was in furtherance of coming to, if you could, come to an opinion or a conclusion about injuries to the victim in this case, a person by the name of John O'Keefe.
Yes.
What did you review in anticipation of your determining whether or not you could come to an opinion or a conclusion?
So I reviewed hospital photographs, autopsy photographs, an autopsy report, grand jury testimony from the medical examiner in this case. There may be some other.
Based on
I just want to ask about that. Do you have notes with you as to what you reviewed?
No.
Okay, so when you say there might be other, you don't.
Well,
If he tells you what you reviewed, you'd know it.
I would recognize it.
All right, but I want to hear it from you. You don't know of anything else that you've reviewed? This is sort of important, Mr. Jackson.
Okay.
Can you think of anything else, Doctor, besides these?
Autopsy photographs, autopsy report, neuropathology report, toxicology report.
Give the lady a little credit. She just flew in.
And the grand jury testimony.
Okay, so as you recall, the items that you reviewed include an autopsy report by Dr. Scortibello, correct?
Yes.
A neuropathology report by a doctor named Stonebridge, correct?
Yes.
Toxicological reports associated with the autopsy?
Yes.
Grand jury transcripts from Dr. Scortibello?
Yes.
Photographs of evidence items, including a gray sweatshirt?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And autopsy photos that were taken attendant to the actual autopsy?
Yes, and photographs that were taken in the hospital, and I reviewed the hospital ER record also.
So in addition to what you just listed, there's also hospital photos separate and apart from the autopsy photos, is that correct?
Yes.
And those hospital photos showed the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe's arm, is that right?
Yes.
And you also reviewed emergency room records that are attendant to his.
I have a feeling that Russell is probably not going to be able to testify, but she's going to have to let in the ARCA experts. I mean, if not, you'd be doing a huge disjustice to Karen Reed's defense. I mean, if they have an expert that says, this is how it happened and their reconstruction, they have to have someone to counter the reconstructionist. So, the Commonwealth didn't have a dog bite expert because that's not the theory that they're raising. But they have to allow Karen Reed, because of her rights, someone to come in and testify to diminish the theory from the Commonwealth. So Russell's probably not going to be able to testify. And if she does, it's probably going to be very limited in what she can talk about, because that's not the central case of the Commonwealth. That falls more into the third-party theory.
Initial acceptance into the emergency room on January 29th, 2022, correct?
That's correct.
Based on your review of all of those materials, were you able to confidently come to any conclusions or opinions about the nature of the injuries suffered by John
I'm
O'Keefe,
guessing that, Mark.
specifically as they relate to John O'Keefe's right arm?
Yes.
What is your opinion and conclusion concerning those injuries?
Those injuries appear to be consistent with an animal attack.
Can you be more specific in terms of the type of animal, or are you relegated to simply an animal attack?
And I think the reason that it's going to be limited, like I said, because that's not the Commonwealth's theory. That's not the Commonwealth's case. If we were talking just strictly about a dog bite, Commonwealth would have their expert come up. The defense would have their expert come up to counter that. But in this case, you have to look at it. That's not what the Commonwealth is saying. The Commonwealth has already had their expert come up. They're reconstructionists. Duper Paul. Okay. He's come up, he's testified, he said, this is how it's done. You have to allow on the defense to have someone come up and testify that it did not happen that way. This is the actual way that it happened. Or to say, I'm sorry, I'm thinking Commonwealth. You have to have someone that comes up and says, this never happened, and this is why. And we're trained in physics and subdivisions of physics and biomechanics. So this would not make any sense. You know, that's what's going to have to be allowed. So she might be able to testify. It'll be very limited because this is going to fall under the third party theory.
Well, they are consistent with a large dog attack. There's a combination of both what I consider bite wounds and scratch wounds on the arm. There were also some puncture wounds in that shirt.
And
So I'm sorry, puncture wounds in the shirt?
Puncture holes in the shirt.
And on what do you base the opinion that
probably tired?
The injuries are consistent with California or scratch marks?
Well, the patterns. There are several patterns of parallel wounds that appear to be superficial scratches that could have been caused by nails or could have been caused by teeth. There are different angles on the arm and different locations on the arm, and but they're generally oriented in a specific direction. And
the funny thing about this too, and I went back and listened when Melanie Little had the dog bite expert on her channel and did that live. It's funny. A lot of the information that he said, a lot of the information that Dr. Russell is saying, it lined up. It lined up.
There's also an area, the distal forearm, which is close to the wrist, which shows what I believe is an arch area of teeth marks.
Hopefully you're enjoying this.
And what's the significance of the arch area?
Well, so the arch would be the front area of the jaw of the animal, you know, or the dog in this case, where the teeth tend to be close together and curved. There's a curved pattern to the configuration of the teeth.
I'm gonna have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Speed up for time. By the way, the Archer experts, very impressive. Their education.
Doctor, I'm going to show you a series of photographs.
I'm gonna speed up because I already know what YouTube's gonna do to me. So let's go to right about where Lally comes in. Oh, all right. I'm just gonna speed up because I already know what YouTube's gonna do. They're gonna whack me once I start showing the arm injuries, the dog bites. We'll move on here. We're just gonna get up to Lally, and then we'll get to the Archer experts. Sorry, everybody. Nor do I want to see the injuries. I don't want to see it. But we're gonna speed up a little bit here, and we'll get to Lally.
In soft tissue injuries.
Oh, yes.
How did that play into your opinion?
Well, so of course I considered, you know, what else could have caused these wounds, you know, and before coming to my conclusion, and so I wanted to rule out other things, and there were no significant major bodily injuries that, outside the head. There was nothing, there were no fractures of the long bones, the chest, the pelvis, you know, the arms. So yeah, so having seen hundreds and hundreds of car accident victims and people hit by cars, I ruled that out very quickly.
Okay, and in terms of the injuries that you did see, especially as they're attendant to the arm, based on everything that we've discussed today, is it your opinion,
poor Paul,
based on a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, that those injuries are consistent with an animal attack as opposed to a motor vehicular pedestrian incident?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too, Mike. Big time.
That's all I have.
All right, Mr. Lally.
Hey, Tennessee checking in. Look at Red Man. Red Man.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
He is
Back,
red.
we were talking about some.
Holy cow, look how red his neck is. Look how red his neck and his ear is. Holy smokes. Wow.
Police training that you had received when you were in the academy or while you were working with the police department here in Massachusetts. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of training did what did that training consist of?
Well, I attended and graduated from the Standard Police Academy at that time. And then I took additional courses that were offered from the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Training Council. And these were taught generally by experts in their fields. And
I'm literally not going to laugh at that because my blood pressure about a month and a half ago was this. It was really bad. And I had to go on blood pressure medication. And I'm getting ready to start a diet here soon. All my food came today. So I'm trying to knock off about 15, 20 pounds because I put on about 15, 20 pounds. That'll start soon. That's going to be fun for my girlfriend. She's going to hate that. All right, let's go.
On a variety of subjects that are listed in, in my CV, included, the hit and run accident investigation, forensic.
There just for a minute, ma'am. Just Doctor, in reference to your training as it pertains to hit and run accidents, what did that training consist of?
I actually don't.
Oh, well, mechanisms of how accidents occur, mechanisms of how to determine, what vehicle was involved in an accident. There, I don't, it was a long time ago, but yeah. So determining if people were struck by vehicles, what vehicle was involved, or if it was auto versus auto accident, what vehicles were involved.
And I don't mean to belittle this training whatsoever, but is it fair to say that that was relatively rudimentary training that you received in the academy?
Probably. I would not. Yes. Okay. Probably. If you
don't have any training in crash reconstruction or anything like that, correct?
That is correct.
And am I correct? And you indicated that you're board certified in emergency medicine. Is that right?
That's correct.
And so you're not board certified in forensic pathology or anatomical pathology or any kind of pathology?
That's correct.
And the last time that you worked as a coroner, when was that?
Last time was in 1995 when I was doing autopsies for the coroner's office. I have since, though, consulted on some cases from the LA coroner's office.
What, about 30 years ago? Is that about right?
For autopsy, yes.
Now, have you ever testified in a case in which either Mr. Jackson or Attorney Little were counsel?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And when was it that you first were contacted in reference to this case?
The first contact was May 15th.
May 15th of what year?
May 17th, excuse me, of this year, 2024. Yes.
And you went through a list of things that you were provided and you reviewed, and you mentioned hospital photos, correct?
Yes.
Autopsy photos, is that correct?
Yes.
An autopsy report, is that correct?
Yes.
Grand jury testimony from the medical examiner, is that correct?
Yes.
A neuropathology report, is that correct?
Yes.
Toxicology report, is that correct?
Yes.
And then I think you also remembered some photos of some clothing items, is that correct as well?
Yes, a shirt. And
Lisa, thank you for the 10. I believe it's on Venmo. She says free Karen Reed. We'll add that to the total. Thank you. I'm going to do, what am I doing again? Oh, what the hell is it? I've done Nutrisystems before in the past, and it actually works really well for me. So I'm going to go on Nutrisystems. They have a men's version of it, and I did really well. And I've used it a couple times over the last couple of years, and I do really well on it. So Yeah, we'll do that. Anyway, it's easy. You just scan everything into an app. It tracks everything for you. It's a calorie deficient diet. And then as you kind of go, it increases your calories. The first week is hell. They knock you down to about 1,000 calories a day, but you lose between like 5 and 8 pounds in the first week to kind of kick you off and get you started. And I've lost like 20 pounds when I do it, and I feel great. And believe it or not, I actually function pretty well on 1,000 calories. I almost feel like I function the best on it. Anyway, let's get to this. This is more important.
Anything else?
Yeah, hospital ER record.
Yeah, the Awaken 180 is great too.
Yeah, yes.
Anything else that you can think of?
No,
Did you ask for anything else to review?
no.
Were you told of any other material that was available for your review that you weren't then given?
Well, I requested that
Okay.
that I focus in on the wounds, so I didn't ask for a lot of material in this case.
But fair to say that you were looking for anything and everything, material to the wounds that you were asked to look at, correct?
Please say that again.
Sure. Fair to say that you would want to look at anything and everything that was related to the wounds that you were asked to look at, correct?
Yes.
And so, did you make any specific requests as to what material you were provided, or were you just handed some material or forwarded some material and you looked at what you were given?
No, I requested that I have the autopsy photographs, the ER records, the ER photographs. I requested those.
Now, you mentioned some articles that you had written that were published back in 1996 and 1997 related to dog bites. Is that right?
Yes.
Are those publicly available articles?
Yes.
And in those articles that you wrote, you were talking about law enforcement bites, correct?
Yes.
So law enforcement canine bites typically involve what you call sort of a bite and hold technique. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
So is there a difference between,
Hey, Kelly, how are you?
through your
Good to see
experience and the hundreds of dog bites that you've seen, is there a difference between what you would observe from a dog bite from a law enforcement canine versus just your domesticated dog?
Well, yes. Now, the study, one of those studies was over 700 dog bite wounds, and there were two techniques used at that time: bite and hold, and later on, bark and hold, or bark and alert, or something of that nature. So there are different techniques, but yes, to specifically answer that question, which was, are they generally different from regular domestic dog bites? Yes.
Now, did you write a report in regard to your opinion that you testified to here today?
No.
Why not?
I don't think there was much time, and I didn't know if I was going to be actually testifying.
How long would it take you to write a report?
I wasn't asked to write a report, excuse me.
Were you asked specifically not to write a report?
I think that's something that they could have done better. Write a report, give your determination, give your analysis, give your determination. And I think that should have been something that they could have done with this witness to kind of solidify it, put it in print. Here it is. But again, I think that she may be able to testify. I think it's going to be limited, but I'm going to tell you, I'm more in tune with ARCA. Those experts are going to slam dunk this thing home because they've been independently hired, not by the Commonwealth, not by the defense. The DOJ hired them to go in and say, can this happen? And they said, there's no flipping way. So that for me is going to be what lays down the law in this case. Yes, court is tomorrow.
Now, at any point in time, did you ever look at anything related to Mr. O'Keefe's head injury?
Oh, yes.
Do you review reports in relation to that, correct?
Yes.
Do you have any opinions as it pertains to that?
I would rather defer to the pathologist and neuropathologist on that.
Melanie, thank you for the 50. I appreciate that. 25% of what we kick back to Karen Reed's defense fund. I do appreciate that. I know Karen does as well too. And Karen's family, and Kelly Reed is actually in our chat tonight hanging out. I know she appreciates it as well. And this has been kind of a recurring theme here since trial started. I've been doing these kind of kickbacks to Karen. I tell you, I think I tried to total it up the other day. Just the chat alone with the kickback, we've raised almost over $3,000 and kicked that back to Karen Reed's defense fund. So I appreciate it. I know the family appreciates it. Karen's mom, Janet, appreciates it. She always, when she catches me outside of court, always says thank you. And she actually says she loves watching the show. So I appreciate it. If you are watching, Janet or Karen or anybody's watching, we appreciate it and we love you. We absolutely love you. And I'm going to stand with you all the way through all of this. All right, let's keep going here. There you go. You've heard it from
So who
Kelly Reed
contacted you about this case?
I contacted a district attorney that I had worked with in the past. We were discussing a different case, a case that I autopsied in 1995. And I mentioned that I heard that there was a case in Massachusetts that might have been being handled by one of his colleagues, his former colleagues, and that there was an issue of whether something was a dog bite, and that I might be able to help in that case to clarify.
And so when you were provided this material, what is it that you were specifically asked?
You're not speaking, Leslie.
To look
spoken.
at the wounds and the reports and the materials that were sent to me and render an opinion.
And so before you had even
thank
provided any material, before you had even looked at anything, you had already heard information related to there being a dog bite involved in this case, correct?
I had heard that there was a controversy, that there's some certain wounds could have been a dog bite versus perhaps inflicted by a motor vehicle. That's what I had heard.
So what I'm really trying to get at, Doctor, is sort of the timeline. Okay, so you hear about this, when was that?
Sometime just before May 17th.
So sometime just prior to that, you hear about some controversy in a case in Massachusetts involving a dog bite. On May 17th, you get reached out to by who specifically?
His name is John Lewin. He's an attorney in the LA District Attorney's Office.
And then who did you talk to after that?
I reached out to him.
Did they send you over here, or did you just all know that I was live?
I said I might be able to clarify.
Oh, nice.
And then he reached out to Mr. Jackson, I believe, and then Mr. Jackson contacted me.
And not asking specifically anything you spoke about, but at some point, the discussion came specifically to dog bites, correct?
He sent me the materials. He asked me my opinion.
Sent you the materials, asked you your opinion. When did you provide that opinion?
Probably the next day. Yes, I know it was the next day.
So the very next day on May 18th, you provided an opinion?
Yes.
And was that opinion provided in a written fashion, orally? How was that provided?
Orally.
So you reached out to someone shortly before May 17th, spoke to Mr. Jackson on the 17th, received all the material, and then had an opinion by May 18th.
Yes.
But you didn't write any of that down.
Thank you.
No.
Thanks for coming in. We appreciate it.
Now, beyond the materials that you were provided, what else were you told about the case?
I was told that the victim was a...
Here's the thing, I have to agree here. I mean, you got to think, she just flew in from California. She even just said on the stand that she wasn't even knowing coming there today if she was going to testify. She didn't prepare with Alan Jackson. They clearly say that. So you got to give her a little bit of credit here. She's kind of coming in, unpracticed to testifying, not knowing what type of questions are going to be asked of her, and to come up with these quick explanations and determinations and analysis that she had. So, you got to give her a little bit little bit of rope here, I guess. But I think that they're going to try to either keep her out or limit her. But honestly, to me, it doesn't. It doesn't affect me that much. The ARCR experts for me are going to be the ones that are going to lay it down to the Commonwealth in this.
A police
Those guys
officer.
are very important to this
The
case.
decedent is a police officer. I was told that the defendant had been charged, and I was told that that there was a controversy about whether or not these injuries had been caused by motor vehicle. And I was also told, and I read in the medical record, that the decedent was found outdoors, I believe in the snow, and hypothermic.
Now, in regard to what you reviewed, you didn't review any investigative reports, is that correct?
That is correct.
I agree, Kelly.
You didn't review any witness statements, is that correct?
That's correct.
You didn't review any lab reports as far as from the forensic lab or anything like that?
I reviewed the toxicology report.
Beyond that, any other?
If it was part of the autopsy report, I reviewed it.
You reviewed everything attendant to the medical examiner's file, is that correct?
Yes.
Nothing from the lab beyond that?
I don't believe I did.
I like this point of view too.
Now, this
Thanks,
first
Charlie.
instance when you say you heard about it, how did you hear about it?
Well, I believe it was via a headline that I received in my email from the from Boston Globe headline. You know, it was some kind of there was some kind of interesting case.
Real quick, just gonna get to this. Karen, thank you so much for the $10. Appreciate it. 25% of that will get kicked back to Karen. She seems very intelligent in her field. Lally knows this will not help his lies in the evidence. Kelly Reed is a sweetheart, as the rest of her family. Hashtag free Karen Reed. I completely agree with all of that. I completely agree with all that. And thank you for the $10. I appreciate it. All right, let's keep going here.
And I got it as an email, and I looked into it.
And when was that?
Well, that was that week in May. That just a few days before May 17th.
You subscribed to the Boston Globe online?
I did at that time. I have not renewed it.
How long had you been a subscriber to the Boston Globe?
I'm going to allow it.
Probably a year or 6 months, 6 months to a year.
There was never any headlines or anything else that you saw about this prior to that week just before May 17th?
Not that I paid attention to.
I have nothing further.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson?
Nothing further.
All right, so since
bad
this is a
when you had to get
voir dire, I
out.
get to ask
Seemed like you're
questions,
struggling
Doctor.
a little
So
bit.
yes,
I just have a couple of questions for you. I don't think I really heard you. So could you tell me again what your opinion is and to what degree you hold that opinion?
Yes. These injuries in the arm are, my opinion is that they are the result of animal bites or scratches.
And do you know what kind of animal?
Oh, yes, most likely dog, large dog. And I'm very reasonable, very sure to, what's the word I want? Medical certainty, very
All right,
high
so
degree, high degree of medical certainty.
reasonable degree of medical certainty.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, and another question. So I received information that you also viewed all reports associated with Chloe, a dog's prior bite history. Did you review those?
No, I don't recall ever seeing anything like that.
You also reviewed the UC Davis DNA testing results submission forms?
No, I don't recall seeing them.
Okay, any follow-up, any questions based on my questions?
Not for the Commonwealth, no.
No, Your Honor.
Right, you are all set, Doctor. I don't know yet whether you'll be testifying.
Okay.
We'll try and let you know. You're going to be around in a few days?
No.
Okay, we'll let you know as soon as we can, okay?
Okay. Okay.
Thank
All right. Thank you.
So you're gonna be around for a few days? She's like, no, I kind of feel bad for her. She kind of had a hard time getting up. Poor lady. She struggled a little bit. Seems like a very nice lady. Just no agenda, just telling it like it is. Yeah, she had a little trouble getting up. I felt bad. Oh, everybody likes the next guy. All the ladies are melting for the next guy. Sleuthy likes the next guy coming up. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Is this
So
guy
I
a
would
real
like to
hit?
hear argument on this witness before we hear the other witnesses. So
Real quick, I want to get to this. John, thank you for the 20 Aussie. I appreciate it. The experts were wonderful, highly qualified and experienced. Can't wait till they testify before the jury. They will be detonated by the prosecution's flimsy case. Thank you, Brian. Love your passion and honesty. From Tasmania. Well, good eye, mate. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And I always liked, when I was a kid, I used to watch the Tasmanian Devil show, and they had that song, come to Tasmania, the cartoon. It was just great. But thank you. I appreciate that. Let's add that to the total. We'll make it $20 American. And we'll kick that back to Karen Reed. All right, let's go.
Ms. Giannetti, I asked you the other day whether she reached out to you or you reached out to her, and you said there was an intermediary. But my concern was whether she came out of nowhere and reached out about this case, and that seems to sort of.
It wasn't Ms. Giannetti, it was me.
Okay.
Crash.
All right. So
you ladies are funny.
So the question I asked was answered pretty much by this witness, whether
excuse me,
she saw something and decided she wanted to come forward. All right, it's the Commonwealth's motion. What are you asking me to do? Again, I found a violation of Rule 14. And there are two concerns here: the competency of the witness's testimony, how much she can testify to, whether she should.
The crazy thing is, Sleuthy, is if Brian Walsh goes to trial, this probably most likely is going to be the judge, or she might actually be assigned to that case. I don't know. Is she assigned to that case? If Brian Walsh, and you got to think too, when if Aiden goes to court over all that bullshit that he's in, the fucking stupid witness intimidation, that's going to be his judge as well too. I believe. I could be wrong. Maybe someone can set me straight, but I think that in both cases, I think she might be the
Testify at all. What is it you're asking me, Mr. Lally?
Your Honor, I'm asking that the witness be excluded from testifying at the trial for the violation of Rule 14.
I think it's true.
Specifically, I believe it's Rule 14A6. This is
could be wrong, but I think so.
A witness, as the court picked up on, that reached out, albeit through an intermediary.
He's got a different judge.
With reference to just sort of discovering or coming upon this case in several weeks into the trial. It is concerning given the fact that the witness represented that she's
going to go to civil court.
Had a subscription to the Globe Online, received word of this, and the first time that she had ever seen it or it had grabbed her attention was in that first week of May when, as the court is well aware, there's been widespread media coverage, particularly through the Boston Globe for years at this point. The limitations of the testimony, it's also concerning because the disclosure from counsel.
Real quick, Val Gal, thank you so much for the $25 on Buy Me a Coffee. Gee, I haven't called off one of those in a while, but Buy Me a Coffee app, thank you for the 25. We'll add that to the total tonight. I think we're at about 325. Oh, we just had another $10 come in. $10 come in. Says Lally, no, she hurts my case. And I will add that $10 as well too. Thank you. All right, let's keep going.
indicated, again, as the court had noted, I didn't want to get into too much as far as for purposes of this voir dire, but there was additional material that was indicated in the disclosure that the witness had reviewed, including the UC Davis related to the canine DNA or the lack thereof, as well as, forgive me,
Okay, here's something notable, and it's actually kind of funny. So, and I almost think that I'm telling you, Lally watches our streams. I know he does, because I was making comments after the day that I got to sit in court, which was the ultimate privilege to do that. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Karen and Co. I appreciate that, because it was quite the experience, and I was very honored to be asked to sit in court. But it's funny because I made a comment, and I started making a lot of comments after I went into court. And I said, you look at the defense's table and it's so streamlined, and they have their laptops out and everything is organized, and they have perfect posted notes and pens in certain places and all that. Then you look at Lally, and he's literally, that's how he walked in. He walks in with a stack of books and papers, the case file, and literally throws it down on the desk, and it's just like a mess, right? But I noticed ever since we started making comments about that, it's actually a little neater over there. It doesn't look as bad as it was. And I'm telling you, he must watch these streams and know that we're just railing on him about it. It's hilarious. But see, his folders are all nice and neat now. It used to be a mess over there. Oh my God. All right, let's keep playing.
Dog bite history of that specific dog, which also I would note for the court includes photographs of what a dog bite from that specific dog looks like. And that specifically apparently was not provided to this witness, who's then opining on, inferably at least, that that dog was the cause of these particular injuries. However, was not shown specifically anything to do with that bite history as far as by way of reports or photographs. So that juxtaposed or coupled with the immensely late disclosure. I mean, we're talking about at least the 6th week of trial by the time this witness is even mentioned, not on the defendant's witness list, not mentioned at any point in time during the pendency of the case, and then sort of pops up in the middle of May, and to the point that the limited amount of material or information that's provided by counsel as far as disclosure opinion doesn't come until today. So for all those reasons, Your Honor, the Commonwealth is requesting that her testimony in its entirety be excluded from this trial.
Jackson.
Your Honor, exclusion is the highest form of punishment. It's the highest form of sanction that the court has available to it. Just to put a fine point on it, it is a dire remedy. And I know the court has mentioned 2 or 3 times, I'm finding a violation of Rule 14. That sounds as if the court is suggesting or has inferred that we did something wrong. We didn't do anything wrong. As the court learned, I didn't reach out to
John again with $10 off Aussie will make that $10 US. Says, who sends 25% of their monetization revenue to Karen Reed's defense fund? Brian does. That's who. When I saw you doing that, mate, you had my instant respect. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. You know, it's not about the money for me. You know, I don't care about the money. I care about contributing to someone to help their defense, because I believe so strongly in Karen Reed's innocence that she needs all the help that she can get. And if I can kick something back to her to help her get through this and get on the other side of innocence, I mean, she's literally having to pay for her innocence right now, of a absolute sham of a trial that is literally melting every day that the Commonwealth gets inside that courtroom. And if I can do something to give some money to her to help her get out of this complete mess and just be done with this and be able to move on with her life, I want to do that. Because, you know, maybe someone would do that for me someday if I was ever in a particular mess like this. But, you know, you have to look at it. Karen Reed could be any single one of us that are, you know, watching this live right now. That could be you. And it just tells you that there are good people in this world. There are good people that will come out of nowhere and help. And, you know, I've talked about that a million times about, you know, why I do a YouTube channel. You know, listen, I might not be the most well-spoken, educated people on criminal cases, but I've learned an absolute lot by watching this and just giving my everyday, you know, when you come here, you're going to get a regular guy. I'm just going to spout out a lot of stuff. I may be wrong on things. It's fine. It's okay to be wrong in life. But there was just something particular that bothered me about this case. And when I started to learn about it and do my own, you know, peeling back the onion layers and then really getting hooked up and watching all the Turtle Boy stuff, I said, wait a minute, something's not right. So that's why I do this. I don't know. You know, I just want to help some people out and educate people if I can, and maybe give some people that watch these lives, you know, a different way of thinking. You know, I had a very narrow mind way of thinking growing up, and this has allowed me to kind of expand my mind a little bit more and accept a lot more things and look at things a different way. And hopefully that's what I can do for all of you. And I just love talking to people. I just love having natural conversations. And that was the whole thing of like building a studio out and finally being able to get back in there on Friday and finally being able to have like live people come in and sit and have a face-to-face conversation. I know we do a lot of these, like when we have guests, it's virtually, but it's so much different. And the dynamic is different when someone is sitting in front of you because you can read their body language. You can see their facial expressions. Things come a little bit more naturally when you're looking at someone. You can tell if they're lying. You can tell if they're telling the truth. And that's what I want to explore. I want to explore the human mind and the human character and be able to bring that back to all of you. You know, I always said one of my biggest, hugest influences on YouTube in podcasting is Joe Rogan. I mean, he is the best podcast in the world. And he doesn't really have a format. He just brings in people and talks to them. And, you know, people with all different backgrounds or situations they may have gone through. That's kind of what I want to do here. So anyway, I am rambling on here. I have a couple of super chats that came in. And listen, I appreciate the support. And I know Karen appreciates the support and her family appreciates the support. And I hope that, you know, when, and I talked about this the other night, you know, and I'm being very open about this. I don't think probably other creators have said this. You know, I've been very, very emotionally involved in this case. There's not a minute that goes by that I don't talk about this case to someone. I don't read something about it. I don't look into something about it. I am literally obsessed about this case. And I'm going through a certain period here now of a lot of anxiety. There's going to be probably some depression that comes on. But the ultimate thing is that on the other side of all this, when this gets handed over to the jury, that Karen Reed walks out of that courtroom 100,000 million% acquitted and not guilty of these charges. I have a lot of anxiety about that. I have a lot of depression about that right now. And then it's just to, you know, the after effect and going through that. And you know, I'm kind of traveling that road with all of you. So you know, I don't know. I'm rambling, I guess. I'm rambling on, I guess, but I think you all can feel where I'm getting at here. All right, let's go up. Let's read some of these super chats. I appreciate you all hanging in there with me and kind of going through that. But I hope you can kind of understand where I'm coming from. Let's see. I gotta go back up here. Joe, thank you for that super chat. I appreciate you. Melanie, again with the $10. The same thing happens in my trial, and the doctor was allowed to testify in full. Thank you. David checking in saying Dr. Russell will specify the wounds were caused by Chloe. Love that. Thank you. let's see. Yeah, I mean, Sluthia, great. Says, imagine what happens to folks that can't afford attorneys, folks who no one knows about. The problem has been, this problem has been a problem since, just for different faces. Absolutely. Kelly, thank you. No, I appreciate you. You know, I certainly appreciate you. Thank you. Steve checking in $5 says she didn't look at the DNA bite history because she was avoiding confirmation bias. If you don't know what that is, all Joe Paul to define it. Ask Joe Paul to define it. Let's see. Diana, thank you. Says Dr. Russell is awesome and known out here in the LA area. She's great. Example of the ER doctor, and puts Rice to shame in saying how Bev treated her. Also, I've got about 50. My patients are triage dog bites. John O'Keefe had dog bites and scratches. Thank you for bringing your expert opinion in and letting us know. Let's see. Laura, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate that. Kim with $80 Aussie. Thank you. I echo the same feeling as John from Tassie. Free Karen Reed, and thank you for being you from Queensland. You know, the thing that people have to understand, you know, a lot of the people that are watching this case from overseas or maybe Canada, they don't get the news like we get here in the US. And that's why they come to these channels, because they may be enthused. They may be, you know, into these cases, or, you know, a true crime enthusiast, or just someone that wants to educate themselves about trial law. Or, you know, they hear about this, an innocent woman that's being framed by a lot of police officers and essentially a whole town. And they want to know about that. So that's why they come to these lives. Lindsay for the $4.99 says, if John never went inside, it means he stood outside for the 10 minutes while Karen waited for him to respond to her. She would have heard his phone ring. It's a good point. I think I saw Maz Media in here. He said he's definitely going to make a visit into the room. Yeah, dude, you're welcome in anytime. Let's see. 999 says, takes a village. Bringing a voice to Karen when she's being railroaded is heroic. Taking a stand for what is right can be hard, but your heart is huge. Hashtag free Karen Reed. Thank you. I appreciate that. Mike 99 says, thank you, Brian, for your authenticity and attention you've brought to this case. Let's hope that it doesn't end with just her certain acquittal. The feds still have work to do on the McAlberts. I agree, Mike. Thank you. I appreciate that. I just want to make sure I get through everything. All right. Okay, let's move on here. Sorry for the delay. You know,
she reached out and said, hey, look, I've got some experience.
I asked you that the other day, though, and I was told that you reached out to her through an intermediary. I wasn't told she reached out to you through an intermediary.
I don't know that there's a difference. I mean,
what I was trying to get at is this somebody who read about this case and said, you know, I want to be part of that. That's what I was trying to get at. I think it was pretty clear, Mr. Jackson. Go ahead, continue with your argument.
Okay, I did not misrepresent anything.
I didn't say that.
I take offense.
I love this. And Jackson's like, I take offense to this. And I love that he's striking back at Bev. I think he's had enough. They've been suppressed ultimately, you know, fully to the extent in this case. It's disgusting. And I love the fact that Jackson's now firing back. He's done with it. This is a bullshit case, and he is going to fight back now. So let's go back a little bit here. And I'm glad that Jackson gave it back to her.
It doesn't come until today. So for all those reasons, Your Honor, the Commonwealth is requesting that her testimony innocence already be excluded from the trial.
Jackson, your exclusion is the highest form of punishment. It's the highest form of sanction that the court has available to it. Just to put a fine point on it, it is a dire remedy. And I know the court has mentioned 2 or 3 times, I'm finding a violation of Rule 14. That sounds as if the court is suggesting or has inferred that we did something wrong. We didn't do anything wrong. Because the court learned, I didn't reach out to her. She reached out and said, hey, look, I've got some experience with this.
I asked you that the other day, though, and I was told that you reached out to her through an intermediary. I wasn't told she reached out to you through an intermediary.
I don't know that there's a difference. I mean,
What I was trying to get at, is this somebody who read about this case and said, you know, I want to be part of that? That's what I was trying to get at. I think it was pretty clear, Mr. Jackson. Go ahead, continue with your argument.
okay, I did not misrepresent anything.
I didn't say that.
I take offense at the court's tone. Yes, you did say that. You just said that. You said,
Okay.
I just heard the testimony, and it's not what I said the other day. I know a person in Los Angeles DA's office. I received a text message from that person saying there's someone who reached out to me who said I might be able to elucidate on this controversy concerning the dog bites. I then reached out to her. So when you asked me who reached out to whom, I reached out to her through an intermediary, my friend in the DA's office back in Los Angeles County.
So maybe it wasn't clear what I was looking for. I think it was clear. But go ahead, continue with your argument on this.
Dave, thanks for the 5.
Rule 14 requires a sanction if, in fact, the attorney has done something wrong. In other words, it connotes the idea that we're doing something by actively hiding evidence or holding back evidence or not providing evidence that you know you're going to use at some point in an effort to take a tactical advantage. And the sanction for that is exclusion. I've never met this woman. First time I laid eyes on her was during the process after she flew out here to engage this voir dire process. She indicated I could potentially provide some information about this controversy concerning dog bites. I then sent her materials. I talked to her. I sent her materials. I found her to be incredibly credible. I found her to be experienced, and I found her to be knowledgeable in this very specific area, which is rare. There's not that many people who have published, doctors who have published in the area of dog bites specifically. So I thought it makes sense for me to reach out to her and talk to her, which is exactly what we did. And within a couple of days, literally, you could almost count it by the hours of me receiving her information, we then had a discussion amongst ourselves. Is this somebody that we want to then present on the defense side, on the defense case, and we turned the information over to Mr. Lally. I understand that it was well into the trial, but that's not a fault of ours, and I don't think the sanction of exclusion is necessary or appropriate to punish Ms. Reed from having an experienced witness testify in rebuttal to ultimately what Dr. Scortibello and the Commonwealth is going to present in their case in chief. That's what she's going to do. She's going to present contrary evidence or an alternative theory of where those injuries came from to a person. Everybody on the Commonwealth side who can elucidate about this has said those injuries come from a tail light, including Mr. Paul yesterday. We have contrary evidence, and Ms. Reed should be entitled to present that evidence, even though it came late. It didn't come late by any fault of ours, and I don't believe that the Commonwealth has made out a prejudice that they can't overcome. It's late. Obviously, Mr. Lally is a skilled lawyer. There's nothing to say that he can't or hasn't been able to prepare for the cross-examination or for an examination in front of the jury. And I just don't think exclusion is appropriate.
All right, so the second part of this argument, and I'll start with the Commonwealth first. So in your motion to exclude, you also raised Daubert-type concerns. So, Mr. Lally, is there portions, if I permit her to testify, are there portions focused specifically on the part of her opinion where she says,
Dennis, thanks for the 5.
I guess the defense expects her to be able to say she will testify that these injuries are inconsistent with having been struck by a vehicle, road rash, or scratches from broken glass or taillight material. I think you have an uphill battle on that part, Mr. Jackson. The Commonwealth, what are you saying? If she testifies, what should she be able to testify to? And don't just say nothing. I want some input.
No. If the court were permitted to test the doctor to testify, Your Honor, what I would submit would be permissible testimony from a legal standpoint, as some factual questions in regard to that. But from a legal standpoint, I think the court could permit her to testify as to the injuries that she observed, her work in history in that area, observing prior injuries related to animal attacks and whatever consistency she believes that they have with that. I do not think it would be proper to allow this witness to testify or opine anything about the inconsistency with regard to pedestrian injuries. I don't think any proper foundation has been laid for there, whether it be through experiential knowledge in relation to that, or any sort of specialized training or knowledge, or anything to do with that. Anything from a forensic pathology or anatomical pathology perspective, I think should also be out of bounds and excluded with regard to this witness. That she's certainly a very experienced emergency room physician. So anything in relation to that, I think is permissible. But as far as the experience when it comes to motor vehicle crashes or pedestrian crashes, of which the court is well aware, there are a litany of different types of interactions a pedestrian can have with a motor vehicle in a collision sequence. And simply saying, well, there's no injuries to the leg, so it couldn't have been a motor vehicle collision is just plain wrong, and not backed up by science or anything else that this witness can testify to from the very limited experience she has in that realm. So if the witness were able or permitted by the court to testify, I would submit that her testimony should be relegated to simply what if any opinions, her experience obviously, and then what if any opinions she draws with regard to the causation of the injuries on the right arm, as it pertains to consistency there. But I venture to guess that it's likely that they're probably also going to be, in her opinion, consistent with many other causes beyond that, if she's being reasonable.
All right, Mr. Jackson.
I get it.
I'll submit, Your Honor. I have no issue with, I just said I'll submit, I'm not submitting.
Get back in the house.
I have no issue with limiting her testimony to the animal attack issue, the dog attack issue. I didn't, as the court noted, I didn't spend any time. I think I may have asked one question consistent with the motor vehicle incident. I have no problem if the court wants to limit her testimony to the dog bite aspect and not the motor vehicle aspect. I wasn't planning on going into that aspect anyway. I've got another pathologist who can do exactly that.
But you did go through it with her, and it's on your disclosure.
You know, it was actually kind of funny. I watched some of this the other day at work, and it was when Lally was questioning the ARCA experts. I'm like, dude, just sit down. These guys are going to smoke you. He didn't ask them many questions about qualifications.
I have no problem editing.
So why is it on the disclosure or where the Commonwealth turned over that she viewed all reports associated with Chloe's bite history in the UC Davis DNA testing? Why is that in there?
Because we set that in a Dropbox. We set everything in a Dropbox, and I assumed that she reviewed it. She must not have seen it or opened it or reviewed it. I didn't know. But that's what was sent to her. Everything that's in the disclosure is what was sent to her.
All right. If she's permitted to testify, you led her through quite a bit. Today, you won't be able to. I mean, she struggled with to what degree of certainty she held an opinion. She struggled to what she viewed. She didn't write a report. I have to consider all of these things too, as the gatekeeper as to whether she can actually assist the jury. So I'm not deciding this right here. Mr. Lally, if I do permit her to testify, I will give you time to absorb this testimony and to find an expert in rebuttal for this. How long might something like that take?
Pause long. Let me pause this really quick. Nakia, thank you so much. From California, thank you, Brian, for paying it forward. I am too anxious and depressed. I am too so anxious and depressed, but hopefully Karen will prevail. Absolutely. Thank you. I can't believe he's like a week. You're going to drag this out for another week? Come on, bro.
Not terribly long, Your Honor. As
he don't know.
As far as preparation,
you don't know.
I can't give an exact time frame on that. As far as a rebuttal witness, I'd say a week at the most.
A week from today?
Yes.
Why don't you start looking at least? All right. Well, I decide I won't know until Thursday.
Sure.
All right. All right. Anything else on this witness?
Submitted, Your Honor.
Seriously, Scott.
All right. Next witness, please.
Maybe Sleuthy can
With
answer
regard
that.
To Dr. Wolf and Dr. Rentschler.
Uh-oh. The ladies are going to go nuts.
Different scenario, and I'm presuming that the court is asking for a 1 year on their qualifications.
Well, I want to know who did what. I want to know, they say we. I want to know who did what.
Is the court suggesting that I go through their entire testimony of exactly what they did, their testing, their opinions, conclusions, the bases of their opinions, conclusions?
I love when he goes, and clearly when you hear them get up on the stand, you're going to see that they are very well qualified.
However you want to do it, Mr. Jackson, we're here today on the Commonwealth's motion.
I realize that. But it's not the Commonwealth's motion to depose our experts. The Commonwealth's motion is they're not qualified as accident reconstructionists. I don't need to go, and I'm not inclined to give them a free bite at the apple.
I like how he's saying that.
Examine these witnesses twice on the basis of their opinion. I will go through, I think, to the court's satisfaction. I don't think it's going to take long to figure out that they're extraordinarily qualified to give their opinions. But I don't think it's incumbent upon me to walk through their entire testimony and give the Commonwealth a free bite at the apple like it's a deposition.
Whatever you want to do. I'm not telling you what to do. Whatever you want to do.
Like, all right, we'll just bring him in here and do it. All right, ladies, hold it together. I think this is the guy that everybody likes. Yep, that's exactly what it is. And that's what Alan Jackson was saying, is saying that the free bite at the apple, he doesn't want to allow that. And it's true. Melanie, thank you so much. Another big $50 super chat. Goodness, this judge, really? Thank you.
So we're going to be able to see if the court, in case now here, and should
The one that everybody likes, ladies like.
Yes.
Right?
Thank you.
Just very loudly into the microphone.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Daniel Wolfe, last name spelled W-O-L-F-E.
So what do you do for a living?
I am the director of accident reconstruction at a company known as ARCA, A-R-C-C-A.
And tell us a little bit about ARCA. If you could explain to the court what ARCA is and what its primary mission is.
So ARCA is a forensic consulting engineering company. We have a variety of disciplines that include biomechanics, failure analysis, human factors, premise liability, crashworthiness, and accident reconstruction.
You said that you were the current director of accident
Ladies are funny.
correct?
That is correct.
Is that a specialty of ARCA specifically?
Yes, sir.
And what sort of contracts does ARCA routinely engage in?
We typically work for law firms, insurance carriers.
What about other clientele? For instance, maybe it's an insurance carrier or a law firm, but what about the ultimate client? The military, Department of Defense? Have you contracted with other entities or agencies, sporting agencies?
Certainly, yes. We've done research for the military. We do player safety for the NHL. So yes, we are involved in a number of research projects as well.
And in terms of ARCA and its commissions and consultation, is it known both nationally and internationally? Is it recognized as a leader in the area of accident reconstruction?
Yes.
As the director of accident reconstruction, do you specialize in not only accident reconstruction, but human factors as well?
Yes, sir.
Can you give me a synopsis of the professional discipline of accident reconstruction? What is accident reconstruction?
Well, I think that's a very broad.
Here we go. We got this is fantastic. This just puts Trooper Paul to shame. Yeah, I noticed that too, Charlene. Yeah, good point out. All right, let's keep going here.
Topic. I look at the cases that come across my desk. You know, I've been involved with pedestrian impacts, and that could be pedestrians hitting the side of vehicles, fronts, backs, getting run over by vehicles, being struck by a vehicle, then projected into another vehicle. I've dealt with your simple fender bender collisions. I've dealt with collisions that involve 60-car pileups on a highway. So again, accident reconstruction in terms of the scope for a case, it can really vary case to case depending on the facts and circumstances of that case.
And when you say dealt with, are you talking about literally going into, from an engineering and a scientific standpoint, trying to reconstruct what happened, what the causal effects were of that accident, and what the results were, the resultant damage or injuries were?
Absolutely.
What about human factors? What does that discipline entail? What is human factors?
Well, to give you an example of that, so I do a lot of nighttime visibility work where, for instance, let's say a pedestrian's coming out onto the roadway at night. Maybe it's not a lit roadway and you're relying on your vehicle headlights to illuminate that pedestrian. So it's determining
So my girlfriend's gonna go to bed. Can someone just keep the rolling total like one of my moderators? She says we're at 582 right now, 145 for Karen. If one of my moderators can pick it up and just keep adding the totals, that would be great. I appreciate it. All right, let's go.
When would a driver recognize that individual on the roadway based upon the headlights, if there is any artificial lighting, their clothing? And then we look at how do drivers respond based upon that scenario that they're presented with. So we know that response times are different depending on the hazard that's presented to them. So if it's a pedestrian coming to the road.
Kevin, thank you so much for the 10. This company researched why the space shuttle crashed. Let's see. They must have no idea what they are doing. Laugh out loud. Good luck, Lunchbox Lally. I appreciate that. Everybody say goodnight to KC.
Roadway, it's a vehicle stopping in front of you. So that's the application of human factors.
And that might include everything from passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, bicycle issues, motorcycle issues, things of that nature.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What education, training, and background qualifies you to perform the duties that you just described as director
Smoking Trooper Paul right now.
Construction at ARCA?
In terms of my educational background, I received a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from James Madison University back in 2012, along with a minor in mathematics. Some of my coursework while at James Madison included courses in physics, statics, dynamics, kinematics, material science, and your typical engineering sciences. Subsequent to my undergraduate degree, I then went on to the University of Delaware to pursue my PhD in electrical and computer engineering with a concentration in electromagnetics and photonics.
Trey, thank you for the 25.
Did your research area also include physics, in addition to electromagnetics?
Yes, sir.
Optics?
Yes, sir.
Photonics?
Yes, sir.
619.
And lighting?
Correct.
Are you accredited as a traffic accident reconstructionist?
Yes, sir.
By whom?
By an organization known as ACTAR, which is the Accreditation Commission for Traffic Accident Reconstructionists.
Are you trained in photogrammetry to determine vehicle crash and map scene evidence from photographs?
Yes, sir.
In other words, looking at a photograph rather than being at the scene, that is a specialty or a specific area of training that you've engaged, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you trained in Bosch crash data retrieval analysis?
Yes, sir.
Otherwise known as CDR analysis, right?
Correct.
In terms of professional associations and accreditations, are you certified by the Society of Automotive Engineers?
Yes, I'm a member of that organization.
What about being a member of Optical Society of America?
Yes, sir.
Illuminating Engineering Society?
Yes, sir.
And finally, the National Association of Professional Accident Reconstruction Specialists?
Yes, sir.
You're accredited by all of those organizations, is that right?
I'm a member of all of those. Yes, sir.
Have you authored peer-reviewed articles in the area that we've just discussed?
I've authored a number of papers in the field of physics, and one of my most recent publications was that dealing with Toyota and Lexus vehicle control history records.
In 2021, did you author or co-author a peer-reviewed article known as Collision, the International Compendium for Crash Research dealing with vehicle control history and braking issues?
Yes, sir.
Have you qualified in other courts to testify as an expert in the area of accident reconstruction?
Yes, sir.
Important.
Real quick, let me just get to this. Butt dial Brian. I love this. $20. Add $20. So much attitude from Auntie Bev just towards Team Reed. Doesn't anyone else scream at their laptop, phone, TV, computer, or whoever they consume the travesty of the case? Keep up the excellent work, LTL. Hey, I appreciate that. My girlfriend checking in before she takes off. 639 total. Last one before I go to bed. Mary, if you could do me a favor, could you pick up the running total? If we get any more super chats or cash apps that come in, I'll just call them out. And if you could keep the total for me, that would be great. All right, let's keep playing here. Thank you, Butt Dial Brian. I love that name, by the way.
Were you hired by the
Thank you, Mary.
defense in this case?
No, sir.
Before this morning, you walked into court. You and I ever met face to face?
No, sir.
Melanie,
in terms of the commission that you were asked to undertake,
thank you, Mary.
In this case, that have anything to do with the defense?
No, sir.
That have anything to do with the Commonwealth?
No, sir.
So a third-party agency hired you and commissioned you, or ARCA, with the responsibility of doing an accident reconstruction in this case, correct?
Correct.
Person to my left, the female to my left sitting here, you ever seen her before?
Nope.
you know who she is?
Yes.
He does now.
How many times have you been qualified in other courts to testify as an expert in the area of accident reconstruction?
I think it's around 20 times to date.
In both federal and state court?
Just state court.
Multiple states?
Yes, sir.
Your analysis, conclusions, and opinions are completely independent, whatever they are. Those analysis, conclusions, and opinions in this case are completely independent of the defense and of the Commonwealth. Have I got that right?
It's based on the evidence. That's correct.
And you're not paid by either side here in this courtroom?
Correct.
You and your team were asked to undertake a review for purposes of accident reconstruction of the case that's now pending before the court. Is that right?
That's correct.
Who at ARCA was assigned to the team who ultimately would undertake that analysis?
So it was myself, Dr. Andrew Rentschler, and Scott Klein.
Scott Klein has a Master of Science, is that right?
I believe he's got a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, yes.
In engineering?
Correct.
All right. And Dr. Rentschler is a PhD in what area?
Biomechanical Engineering.
Were you provided and did you review certain materials in furtherance of your consultation in this matter?
Yes, sir.
I can have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
I'd like to use my time efficiently, Doctor. I'm going to read through a number of materials that you reviewed.
Real quick, let me just show you all this. Hang on one second. I want to show something to you all and just show you kind of a demonstration of what these guys do. They don't screw around. So here's an ARCA demo from their YouTube channel, and I'll play a little bit of this so you can see what they actually do. Check this out. Scan in the scene. Of course it has music. Oh, they're fucking nailed for the music. But they actually...
My name is Dan Wolf, and I'm a senior forensic scientist here at ARCA. One of my areas of expertise is in the field of lighting and human factors. Over the years, my work has taken me out on the open road under moonlit skies, deep down into the subway system of Manhattan. So, let's go for a ride, and let me show you how ARCA can shed light on your next case.
So they actually go and scan in the scene and then recreate that. You can see them. I'm just going to pop this down because of the music. But they'll scan it in and actually put it into a computer. You can see here there's a pedestrian. Watch this. I thought this was pretty neat. See that? They scan a digital scan and then they recreate it inside a computer. So look at this. That's a computer simulation, and you can see a pedestrian get hit there. See this? They've scanned it. Look at this. That's a model. This is all 3D modeling. Look at that. And they 3D modeled this. It's pretty cool. Oh, I'm sure they have something like this. This is all 3D model. Look at it, comparing the actual scene to a 3D model. That's pretty cool. Here's a 3D model right here. Look at this. It's pretty wild. So that's what they do at ARCA. All right, let's go back to testimony. I just turned the sound down because of the music. Here we go. Very upscale, yeah, I would say.
Before I do that, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I just want you to take a look at the first 2 pages of that document and tell me if you recognize that.
Yes, sir.
What is that? What are those 2 pages?
These are the first 2 pages from the report that ARCA issued in regards to this matter.
Do you see a list of 14 items on those 2 pages?
Yes, sir.
Is that an accurate reflection of the items that you were provided by this other agency to review in terms of coming to your opinions and conclusions concerning this case?
Yes, sir.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Those items include the Norfolk SPDU homicide death report, correct?
Correct.
The Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of State Police crime scene report, correct?
Correct.
The OCME dispatch removal report, correct?
Correct.
Photographs of
you're
the
right,
incident
Milo.
location,
Correct.
videos of the incident location,
Correct.
photographs of the 2021 Lexus LX 570,
Correct.
photographs
You're
of
welcome.
recovered evidence,
Correct.
crash data retrieval report from the 2021 Lexus 570,
Correct.
report of autopsy,
Correct.
autopsy photographs,
Yes.
three-dimensional laser scan data of a Lexus LX 570,
Yes.
a VIN-Link, VIN capital LINK report sheet for the 2021 Lexus LX 570,
Yes.
expert autostats data sheets for a 2021 Lexus LX 570,
Yes.
and publicly available literature, including but not limited to the documents cited within the report, learned treatises, textbooks, and scientific standards, correct?
Correct.
All of those items and data were reviewed by you and your team in coming to your conclusions and opinions in this
This
case,
is
correct?
really
Yes,
good
sir.
stuff.
And I'd like to ask you one other series of questions concerning sort of who did what. Your report indicates that there were.
I'm going to tell you right now, these are the 2 scariest witnesses for the Commonwealth. These 2 gentlemen right here from ARCA. Because with what their final analysis and determination was that the damage to Karen Reed's SUV is not consistent with hitting Officer John O'Keefe, and the reverse of that, the injuries to John O'Keefe are not consistent with hitting Karen Reed's SUV. This is huge for the defense. The Commonwealth is shitting their pants right now. These guys are so well qualified.
In no small part, 2 undertakings, if I can ask them in terms of pillars. The damage to the vehicle
Yes,
and the
I do.
injuries to the body of John O'Keefe, correct?
I would say that's a fair characterization. Yes.
And I may be butchering this a bit because I'm not being very scientific, but were you more responsible for the vehicle damage
You're
or
welcome.
the injury damage?
The vehicle damage.
And who on your team was more responsible for the injury damage?
That would be Dr. Andrew Rentschler.
Obviously, Dr. Wolf, in coming to your opinions and conclusions concerning the damage to the vehicle, you had to consider the damage to the human being, correct, John O'Keefe?
Correct.
And as the team leader, in terms of Dr. Rentschler coming to his conclusions and opinions concerning the damage to the human being, he also had to consider the damage to the vehicle and the interplay of the 2, correct?
Correct. We work.
Real quick, just get this. John, thanks for the $10 Aussie. He said Paul paid more attention to Sesame Street than Fairview Road. Okay, let's keep playing here. Thank you,
Together.
John.
I was just going to say, is that how you 2 and Mr. Klein worked together to come to the opinions and conclusions that are cited in your multi-page report?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor.
So a friend of mine chiming in, and Lally knows. He goes, he's like, how am I going to debunk this guy? A friend of mine just chimed in and said they recreated the Lexus movement just from that actual Lexus data. It'll show that the vehicle movements never happened at 34 Fairview. Very interesting point. Listen to Lally. He doesn't know how the hell he's going to counter this.
Work together.
I was just going to say, is that how you 2 and Mr. Klein worked together to come to the opinions and conclusions that are cited in your multi-page report?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank
That's
you
all I
so
have,
much.
Your Honor.
Okay.
Thank you, up in the air. Thank you.
Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thanks, Noah. Dude, there's nothing you're going to say. They're going to discredit these experts. They're literally hired by the government. They help the military. They've worked with professional sports teams. Literally, there's nothing that you're going to say to these people to discredit them, Lally. Just sit down.
Good morning.
Deflated.
Now, you went through a list of about 14 things that are contained within your report that your firm or your agency was provided with that you reviewed, correct?
That is correct.
Specifically review all 14 of those things, or was that done as sort of a team?
Yes, I looked through all of the documents.
You personally looked at all 14 of those items that are listed within the report?
Yes, sir.
And you indicate that it was your opinions or what you did in this case. You were asked to answer specific questions, correct?
Yes.
It wasn't like you were just tasked with, here's some facts, go do, or take a look at a crash reconstruction or create a crash reconstruction. You were asked very specific questions and you tried to answer them the best you could, correct?
I don't know that there were specific questions. I think ultimately it was an open-ended question.
But related to you testified as to 2 specific areas that your firm or your agency looked at, right?
Those are the disciplines that the report covers, yes.
So you testified about some other areas of expertise as far as human factors, visibility, luminescence, things like that. You didn't do any of those things here, correct?
Wasn't part of my scope in this case.
And the scope in your case, you indicate that it's based on the evidence, correct?
That is correct.
Now, to be fair, that's based on the evidence that you were provided, correct?
Correct.
Well, yeah. The evidence in the case, the evidence that you put out there.
So what did Mr. Klein do?
So as a part of the engagement with the entity that ultimately retained us in this, due to the confidentiality of it, only those who had access to the material to the file were allowed to review it and discuss it.
See what he said? The entity that retained us. They can't say the DOJ or FBI.
And essentially, Scott Klein served as kind of another reconstruction expert to essentially bounce ideas off of and help with the review.
Thanks for being a
So for lack of a better term, sort of provided, let's say, sort of technical review of your work and Dr. Rentschler's work. Is that correct?
I would say assist us with the analysis, yes.
Now, obviously, your firm or your agency issued a report in relation to what you did, correct?
That's correct.
And you've obviously had time to review that report as far as what's contained in there factually, as well as conclusions and opinions, things of that nature.
Yes.
So is it your testimony that anything that has to do with anything factually, conclusions, opinions, or otherwise, in relation to the motor vehicle damage, those are your opinions, those are your conclusions, correct?
I would say that's fair, yes.
And again, based on the evidence that you were provided, correct?
Correct.
And so the facts or evidence or conclusions or opinions related to injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, that was Dr. or Mr. Rentschler's area, is that fair to say?
Dr. Rentschler, yes.
And again, that was based on the evidence or whatever he was providing, correct?
Correct.
Which would be the same materials that you had testified that you had reviewed, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson? All right, so Dr.
Okay, so here's the thing. I did make them at first. I had them out there, and then someone was like, be careful because you could get sued for trademark and all that stuff. I've never really got it cleared by Jackson. But if Alan Jackson would let me make them, I definitely would make them again and put them out there for the public to buy. There was about 10 of them that got out. So if you were one of the lucky 10, you have a limited edition shirt. But if I could ever get it cleared by Alan Jackson, and the other problem is that I never took the photo, so you could get screwed on copyright on that too. So if I ever grab some photos of Jackson, maybe we'll put the shirt back out if he approves. But anyway, we got bigger and better things to get on to here.
I just have one question for you. What specifically were you asked to do?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
What specifically were you asked to do?
So the agency that retained
That's
us
the dumbest question.
Gave us a selected quantity of file material related to this case, and essentially left it as an open-ended question.
Oh, thank you so much. On the Up and Up, I love that name, by the way. That's awesome. A $4.99er. We'll add that to the total. Thank you for your professionalism and genuine dedication to this case, Brian. Love the show. Thank you. We're at 664, and 25% of that will get kicked back to Karen Reed's defense fund tonight. And the way that I do it is at the end of the night, I will just post on the Karen Reed Defense Fund page the total that we come up with at the end, and then I post the receipts on my Facebook page, my YouTube community page, and then, like I said, you can ultimately go and vet me and just go to the defense page link. It will say LTL Media Chat Raiser 619.24, and then the total amount there that we donate tonight. So I just had another $10 come in. Melanie, thank you again. Wow. Can you imagine how the jury will feel when they find out the FBI and DOJ was investigating? Well, they do know that the FBI is involved. It did come up during one of the Alberts. Who was the guy that said it? The guy with the beard. Maybe you can all refresh my name. Refresh the name. He was one of the friends that was at the house that night. Brian Albert Jr.'s friends, I think, or the boyfriend of, thank you, Ryan Nagel. That's it. Thank you. Nagel. So we did hear about it earlier in the case. Everybody's throwing it up. Nagel, thank you. There's been so many names, so many people that's been talked about. I lose track of it sometimes. Yes, thank you. Right. Nagel said the feds, and it opened the door. So they do know. They do know the feds are watching. All right, let's go.
Ultimately, was the evidence consistent with a pedestrian interaction between Mr. John O'Keefe and the Lexus?
Okay, you said selected quantity of information. Who selected that information?
Nikki. TTT.
As far as I'm concerned, it would be the Department of Justice and the FBI.
Right, and they just gave you what they wanted to give you, as far as you know?
We had no say in what material was handed over to us.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any questions based on my questions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Lally?
Just briefly.
And I apologize for this. I'm just unaware. Is it Mr. Wolf or Dr. Wolf?
Dr. Wolf is fine.
So, Dr. Wolf, when you say that you were asked specifically whether or not the evidence, the limited scope that you were provided was consistent with a pedestrian collision, were you asked sort of in general terms as far as any type of pedestrian collision, or were you asked specifically as far as biomechanically could say the injury to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head have been caused by contact with the vehicle? How open-ended was this question?
Again, I think it relates to, is the vehicle damage consistent with the pedestrian impact, and are the injuries consistent with the pedestrian impact?
And again, the whole panoply of injuries, is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Let me rephrase. So did anybody specifically ask you to determine whether or not the injuries to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head could have been caused by a motor vehicle?
I don't know that they asked us specifically. Again, they basically asked us to perform an accident reconstruction and biomechanical analysis and basically tell them our findings, and these are our findings.
And in the materials that you reviewed, did you see anything in there, any sort of statement, suggestion, intimation, anything at all that suggested that
they just had the
injuries
data
or the fracture to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head was caused by a motor vehicle?
No.
In terms of direct contact?
Yes.
No, I don't believe so.
There you go. They just used the data, sir.
Anything? Nothing. All right, Dr. Wolf, you are all set, sir.
Thank you.
Uh-oh, ladies, he's getting up. And he's tall, too. Yeah, I mean, he just had the data. That's it. And just reconstructed it and said, how can this happen, or how can this not happen? That's all he did. This guy's even more qualified that steps up next. Look at Lally just bent up and crooked. Hans Gruber. Trooper Paul can't even spell data. This guy is really smart. I listened to him last time.
You solemnly swear to the evidence you give the court in the case now, the truth, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Oh, you're welcome.
Gotcha.
He's definitely.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Certainly, Dr. Andrew John Rentschler, Rentschler.
Sir, what do you do for a living?
I am a biomechanical engineer and accident reconstructionist.
In what area of the country do you live in?
I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
What is your title currently at your company?
I am
on the up and up. $5. So thankful the taxpayers don't have to pay Lally by his word count. That man uses words to say anything unbelievable. Thank you so much. And we're at 691 and 25% of that will get kicked back to Karen Reed tonight. All right, let's go.
I'm a vice president and director of Biomechanics for the Midwest Division.
And what is the name of that company?
It's called ARCA LLC.
And what is the main mission of ARCA? What does ARCA do?
So ARCA is a engineering consulting company.
And
we have several different types of engineers, biomechanical engineers such as myself, accident reconstructionists, mechanical engineers. We look at crash worthiness, safety of vehicles, and other types of events. So we really do all types of work. We do litigation type work, as well as research and development for government and private entities as well.
I may have just a moment ago.
Yes.
Can you give me a brief synopsis of the professional discipline of injury causation biomechanics? What is that?
Man.
So injury causation.
Remember he asked all these questions of Paul, and Paul was like, "Whoa, I don't know."
Biomechanics is really applying traditional engineering principles to the human body. So as a biomechanical engineer, I look at the response of the body to accelerations and forces and determine how an injury occurs. You know, an injury to the human body is just an engineering problem. For instance,
Punk, thank you so much. Says for the $20. Thank you. Says thanks for being so awesome. It's great you donate to Karen. P.S. I'm so glad I don't live there. Thank you. I appreciate it. So let's add $20. We're at 711. Thank you. All right, let's go.
Mechanical engineer might look at a piece of steel and you know the size of the steel and the shape of it. And if you apply a force in a certain direction, that steel will bend and eventually break. Well, we do the same thing, but we look at the human body. How much force do you have to apply, and how does that force have to be applied in what direction or manner to get a specific injury, whether it's a skull fracture, an intervertebral disc injury, a concussion. So we look at the response of the human body to different forces and accelerations in different types of settings. And ultimately, our hope is to help mitigate or prevent injuries, whether it's in a motor vehicle accident, sports setting, industrial setting, auto pedestrian impact, try and make products and environments safer for individuals.
I was just going to say, AC, you think Jackson has a little Woody right now?
It is, yes, sir.
Little boy walks into an ER with a broken arm. Medical doctor wants to reset the arm and fix the arm, correct?
That's right, yes.
What does a biomechanical engineer want to learn about the broken arm?
We want to learn how that break or that fracture occurs. I always say that we kind of approach injuries from two different directions. You have an injury occur. After it occurs, moving forward, that's when the medical doctors get involved. They diagnose the injury, determine the best way to treat it, what's the prognosis. As a biomechanical engineer, I kind of take the reverse direction. We look at, here's the injury, here's what's diagnosed. Well, how did that injury occur? You know, how much force do you have to apply to cause that fracture? How did the bone have to be loaded? How did it bend to actually cause a specific type of fracture? So we really kind of approach the injury from two different directions.
Understood. And given that scientific approach, oftentimes you can come to conclusions and opinions, scientific conclusions and opinions about the causation of an injury, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, that's what biomechanical engineering is
Tom,
how
thanks
does an
for the
injury
five.
occur? Why did it occur? In what type of setting did the injury actually occur? What type of loading and what type of kinematics do you need to have this injury actually occur?
Can you tell the court a brief synopsis on the discipline of human factors? What part does that play in what you do for a living?
Well, human factors is a large part of it as well. I mean, from a biomechanical standpoint, we look at the body, we have to know anatomy, we have to know the makeup of the body. And then human factors plays a part of it as well as how individuals respond or what their response is to different types of environments or reactions. It really all plays into looking at a specific event. How did someone react? How did their body move? How was the body loaded? There's all different types of factors that you have to apply. The human factors, kinematics, kinetics, biomechanical, musculoskeletal interactions. It's all these different factors that are really involved in performing an analysis to ultimately look at injury causation.
Doctor, as the director of biomechanics and human factors at ARCA, what education, training, and background qualifies you to perform those duties?
Well, I got my bachelor's of science in mechanical engineering with a minor in biomedical engineering from Carnegie Mellon University in 1995. I then went on to get my master's in bioengineering and biomechanics from the University of Pittsburgh in 2002. And then I got my PhD or my doctorate in bioengineering and biomechanics from the University of Pittsburgh in 2004.
Can you give us a brief work history
Excuse me.
up to and before ARCA?
Sure. So I got my my PhD in 2004, and then since then I worked in the consulting field for biomechanics. I've worked for a company out in Davis, California for a while called Biomechanical Engineering Accident Reconstruction. I then joined another engineering company in Jacksonville, Florida for about 3 years called Chesapeake Engineering and Design. And I have now been with ARCA for approximately 16
Yeah, you notice how he hasn't said stuff yet?
and a half years.
And in those positions and in your position currently as a director at ARCA, do you specialize in research and analysis attendant to evaluating and studying the relationships between crash injuries, crash forces, human kinematics, and human tolerances?
I do. I mean, that's really what I do on a daily basis, whether it be in litigation type
Well,
cases.
here's something that I don't want everybody to forget either. Are you hearing the questions that Alan Jackson is asking this witness? Alan Jackson's fucking intelligent. Very, very smart. Listen to what he's asking him.
Or the research and development we do for different companies or entities, or even internal research that we perform at ARCA.
Doctor, what professional associations and accreditations do you have?
I'm a member of the American Society for Mechanical Engineers, as well as the Society for Automotive Engineering. Now, with respect to biomechanical engineering, there's no actual professional licensure for biomechanical engineering. So a PhD or a doctorate is the highest degree you can have in that field.
Are you also a reviewer for archives, physical medicine and rehabilitation and biomechanical engineering online?
I am, yes. Well, usually if you publish articles in a journal, usually that journal comes back to you and asks you to be a reviewer. So I certainly do that type of work as well.
I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about your ongoing education, your professional education after your PhD. Have you continued your education in areas of biomechanics and high impact injuries from the NTSB?
I have. I've taken classes through the NTSB and SAE, the IPTM, Police Technology Management Training Center. There's several different entities.
Here's the difference between, gosh, I forgot his name. I can't say his last name. I get crossed up. But here's the difference. He talks to the crime scene. And the crime scene whispers to Trooper Paul.
I've taken biomechanical and accident reconstruction courses through.
So the alphabet soup, if you will, of biomechanical engineering and human factors.
Right, yes.
And you continue that today?
I do, yes, sir.
I have a hard time
Any
saying
specific training in human kinematics?
Yes, I do have training in human kinematics.
Just out of curiosity, how would you define what is kinematics?
So kinematics is the motion of the human body and looking at how the body moves. And it's irrelevant or irrespective of the forces that cause that motion. So we're really looking at for instance, how one body part moves with respect to the next. We can see how the body moves as a result of a specific type of event.
You mentioned injury mechanics previously in one of your answers. What is injury mechanics and how does that relate to biomechanics?
So again, that's a subset of biomechanics, looking at the response and the strength of the different parts of tissue of the human body. On a very basic level, to get an injury or have an injury occur, you need really two factors. You need enough force to cause injury to the tissue, and you need that force applied in the right manner. So if I wanted to fracture my elbow, I certainly couldn't take a hit on my shoulder and expect my elbow to fracture. Its force is
This is very important right here.
Inserted in the wrong location. And likewise, if I just lean my elbow on the counter here, that's not enough force. So you need the force and you need the application of that force in the correct manner to produce what we call an injury mechanism.
And have you ever participated in any studies or research in this area?
Oh, yeah.
In addition to your dissertation, getting your PhD, what about additional studies and research in this general area?
I have, yes, sir.
Can you describe that for us briefly?
Certainly. Well, just at ARCA, I've worked with the United States military. We worked on the design of the MRAC vehicles, the mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles over in Iraq and Afghanistan.
That's a troop carrier, right?
That's
I guarantee you that was the gateway why they got asked to come in and reconstruct this scene. They've worked with the government before. They've worked with the military. They said, hey, you know what? Maybe the DOJ, the feds, maybe we should probably call those ARCA guys and have them come in and take a look at this. Amy in Boston, thank you so much. You're always here. Thanks for the 5. If this case has taught me anything, it has taught me that I should move from Norfolk County ASP, and I'm deeply attracted to smart men. You're all so funny. All right, let's go.
correct, yes. And the issue there is they go over the IED, the improvised explosive device, and it blows the vehicle up off the ground. So you're getting very large forces and accelerations through the vehicle, through the seat, into the soldier's spines. So we're seeing very traumatic and severe spinal and head injuries. So at ARCA, we work on what we call an energy absorbing seat design. So when the vehicle gets blown off the ground, that seat is designed to absorb the force and the energy to protect the soldier's spine and their head.
Did you take part in the design of that seat?
I did, yes, sir.
Has that been employed by the Department of Defense?
Yes, it has been.
And are troops utilizing that new seat design, that safety seat design in that troop carrier to this day?
As far as I know, it's from what they'll tell us, yes, sir.
Understood. Are you also published in this field, Doctor?
I am, yes.
Can you give us a couple of examples of current studies that you're involved in, or publications that you've done in the recent past concerning bioengineering and the impact or the association that it has with human factors?
Sure. I mean, and another project I'm working on is we work with the NHL actually at ARCA. We have an ongoing, relationship with the Department of Player Safety. For instance, we helped redesign part of the rink. In every arena, they had at the end of the player area, there was basically a 90-degree stanchion where the glass met. And so players were kind of getting checked down in the boards and then hitting up against the glass. And actually, somewhat ironically, it was Chara hitting Pacioretty into the glass, the Boston-Montreal game, and caused a cervical fracture and concussion. And the NHL came to us to see if we could have a redesign of the rink to make it a little safer. So we took crash test dummies, the anthropomorphic test device, which you've probably seen on TV, the automotive manufacturers use them all the time, and threw them into different configurations of glass. And now in every...
These guys love to talk because they love this stuff. I mean, you can tell this dude, he loves his work. You know, when you're saying things like stuff, physics and stuff, I mean, this guy loves what he does. You can tell. Very well qualified.
The arena in the NHL, it is basically a curved piece of spring-loaded Lexan or plexiglass, where the players they hit into it, it absorbs the impact, and they glance off of the glass.
Is that a design that you helped come up with?
It is, yes.
So both from the United States military as well as professional sporting leagues, they've come to you to help save lives, lower risk.
That's right. Mitigate and prevent injuries. Yes, sir.
What about crash and sled testing?
Yeah, I've performed a number of crash and sled.
Real quick, Alex, $10. Thank you for your steady and diligent coverage of this case. You've had a hand in making a difference in the fight for justice for John O'Keefe. Hashtag free Karen Reed. I appreciate that. You know, we all have made a difference. You know, these lives that we do and coming into the chat and staying here, you know, sometimes for 3 hours a night, that makes a difference in this case because you all here are the people that make these streams go. You're all the ones that contribute to the algorithm and push these out so we can educate more people about what's going on here in Massachusetts and with this case. So thank you. I appreciate it. Melanie, again, wow, thank you so much for your generosity tonight. How in the world will Lally cross this guy? Exactly. Charlie checking in with another 5 says the fact that this judge has the audacity to imply these gentlemen are not equipped to opine on anything is absolutely ludicrous. It's appalling. Yeah, it's all the dog and pony show. That's all this is. It's all she's doing. She just doesn't like the defense. She's going to try to get up there and Lally's going to try to make some attempt to discredit these guys. You got to be shitting me. It's not going to happen. But I'm telling you right now, these two guys, when they testify in front of that jury and they show their crash reconstruction, that there's no way in hell that Karen Reed's SUV hit John O'Keefe or John O'Keefe hit Karen Reed's SUV, it's over because they're going to be able to show it and they're going to be able to explain it to the jury. All right, here we go.
Test. When you look at, any vehicle that's driven in the United States, it has to pass federal motor vehicle safety standards. There's federal regulations that they have to pass. And, part of that involves running the vehicle into a wall at 35 miles an hour, hitting it from behind, rollover type impacts. And they have these crash test dummies in those vehicles. So we perform a lot of testing for different cases and situations where we put that dummy in the vehicle and we evaluate the safety system, whether it's the lap and shoulder belt or if it's the airbag or the seatbelt pretensioner, determine how to make the car safer. And part of that is looking at the force that's exerted on that dummy because there's tolerance values. We know how much force it takes to cause specific injuries. So we want to make sure in certain instances at certain speeds or impacts that if someone's in an accident, the force acting on, say, their head or their neck or their chest is going to be below these established tolerance values.
Speaking of
OMG, $5. Thank you. Pay attention to Trooper Paul. Add another hour of learning to your CV, to your resume. Hashtag free Karen Reed. Hashtag JFOJO. Trooper Paul needs to sit down and go away. He's a tuck and roll trooper. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, let's go.
How much force it takes to cause an injury to a human body. Have you engaged in any testing or published in the field of auto pedestrian incidents?
I have.
Yes, I've been involved in a number of studies where we're looking at auto pedestrian type impacts. Again, a lot of times we'll utilize the crash test dummy where we'll set it up and we'll actually have it struck by different vehicles or different objects to look at the response of the body. It's very important if you're talking about an auto ped type impact, you have to know the configuration of the pedestrian, the vehicle, where they hit on the vehicle, whether it's a projection type impact, a wrap, a fender vault. It really all depends on how the person's positioned and the amount of force and speed involved in that type of an impact.
And staying with that for a second, that basic subject matter, have you also engaged in studies related to slips and falls where somebody might fall from a standing position and injure themselves, either to the head, shoulders, whatever?
That's the third party culprit. So that Jackson's trying to get to how John got that injury on the back of his head. And we know that they think that this happened down in the basement, that he hit his head on the back of a weight or something, a counter, something. That's where they're opening this up right now. And that's why Jackson's trying to get this in. Kevin, again, thank you for your generosity. I appreciate it. $10. Brian, thanks for all that you do. And you're very dedicated. This just show how incompetent the state is and how they try to frame Karen. This is going to blow up in Lally's face. These two are no joke. Hashtag free Karen Reed. Thank you.
and those kinds of injury impacts.
I have, yes. And then one of the issues we look at it there is a lot of people fall, especially elderly people. So we want to look at what types of forces are being produced. You look at hip fractures, if you slip and fall backwards, head fractures.
Right.
So we're trying to determine how to prevent those falls from happening and also create devices or products that can help actually prevent injuries if someone does take a fall.
Doctor, have you been retained as an expert in the area of biomechanical engineering and human factors in the past?
I have, yes, sir.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Can you take a look at that document and tell me if you recognize it?
This is a list of my deposition and trial testimony.
Your Honor, I provided that to the court this morning.
Yes, I appreciate it. I had a chance to look at it.
Okay. That's about I don't want to go through everything. That's about a 14-page document. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Let me just ask it this way. How many times do you think you've been qualified as an expert in the field or testified as an expert in the field of biomechanics, biomechanical engineering, and human factors?
I've testified probably over 150 times in numerous state, federal, civil, and criminal courts throughout the country.
Your Honor, move to, I'm sorry, may I approach?
Yes.
For purposes of voir dire, Your Honor, I would ask that this document be marked.
Sure.
Thank you. Have you ever testified in criminal court as an expert in biomechanical engineering?
I have, yes.
How recently have you testified in criminal court?
Well, actually, I've testified twice. The end of May, I think May 31st, I testified in McKean County, Pennsylvania. For the prosecution, it was a case where the defendant was accused of beating his girlfriend to death and basically said that she fell down the steps. So my testimony involved determining how her injuries occurred and that they were entirely inconsistent with what would have happened during a stair fall.
What about another case?
And then about a week after that, around June 6th or 7th, I testified in Cambria County, Pennsylvania, again for the prosecution for another homicide case where the defendant was accused of essentially beating his wife to death.
Wow. Melanie, thank you so much. Wow. A big $200 super chat. Wow. Thank you so much. Wow. That's amazing. Thank you. She says, I watched the trial live. Love your channel. Gotta go to bed. Free Karen Reed. Wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And we love you too. Thank you for being here. And thank you for your generosity. That was really big super chat. Thank you. And look at that. We're $5 away from getting to $1,000 tonight on the stream. And then 25% of that will get kicked back to Karen Reed. I'd love to get to that 1,000. That would be awesome. Wow. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And have a great night. Get a great night rest. I try to every night, but as much as I can. Alex says, Brian, you made a difference. Be proud of it. I think we all do. I think we're all credited to make a difference. We all do our part in this. That's what makes it really awesome about this. And I think that energy is going to translate into that courtroom when the jurors get to deliberate and come back with that verdict of not guilty and 100% acquit Karen Reed of these charges, so she can go on with her life and hopefully then hopefully we get some real investigations here and the people that are responsible for this will be arrested. So that's what I hope. Jody, thank you so much for the 5. That's going to put us at $1,000 tonight. Here, Sahara 5. Thank you so much. And then Kevin just kicked over another 5. Thank you. He said, here's the 5. Thanks, Kevin. I appreciate that. And then we're going to kick back. We're going to kick back the 25% tonight to Karen Reed's fund. Kennedy coming in. Thank you so much. The $20 says, let's get the fund over 1,000 tonight. Thank you, Brian. Best late night chat, folks. Love this group. Thank you. I really do appreciate that. Appreciate the love. And I'm happy to kick back the 25%. So good stuff. Thank you. All right. We got about another 15 minutes. We're going to wrap this up.
and then said that she actually fell backwards and struck her head, caused a skull fracture on the side of the sink. So my testimony, again, pertained to looking at the injury mechanisms and determining that this story of her falling back and striking her head on the sink, it's inconsistent with the injuries and the type of force that would have been exerted in that case.
And this is very important because, like Scott said, we're talking about the head injury here, and this witness is going to be able to opine about John O'Keefe's head injury. Oh, man, I can't wait to hear this testimony in front of that jury. Whew, it's going to be intense, and they're going to get it right.
Yes.
In both
Not
of those murder
physics and
cases,
stuff.
you were hired or retained by the prosecution in the case, not by the defense, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Your opinions in furtherance of the prosecution's case in chief, not the defense case in chief, correct?
That's correct, yes.
With regard to this case, you were asked to look at several items. We've already gone over those in the other testimony, so I won't belabor that. You were asked to look at several items, correct?
I was, yes.
And ultimately, based on that,
Well,
that
good
series of
morning.
information, that universe of information that you were provided, see if you could come to an opinion and conclusion concerning the incident before the court now, correct?
That's right. See if I could determine what happened, how the injuries occurred, and the events leading up to and during that process.
Without going into your conclusions and opinions, were you able to come to conclusions and opinions to a reasonable degree of science and concerns?
I was, yes, sir.
You were not hired by the defense, by me, or anybody on the defense side in this case, correct?
That's correct. I was not.
You were not consulted with or hired by the Commonwealth either.
That's correct. I was not.
It was a completely independent agency, is that right?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Before this morning, have you and I ever met?
No, sir.
And we've never talked about, you and I have never talked about the substance of your opinion and conclusion, correct?
We have not. That's correct.
You did reduce those opinions and conclusions in conjunction with your team to a report, is that right?
I did, yes, sir.
And your understanding is that report was made available both to the defense and the Commonwealth in this case, is that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
I have nothing further.
Okay,
That's
Mr. Lally.
Oh,
Thank
God.
you, Aaron.
Just sit down, Lally. Trying to figure this out. Oh, Aaron, thank you for the 20. It says, go team Reen. Thanks all. It's awesome to see this. Thank you, LTL. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thanks for the 20. And, you know, like I said, 25% will get kicked back to Karen Reed tonight. So thank you. Oh, God. Let's see what old Redneck has to say here.
Good guess.
Just a few questions for you, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Now, with relation to your work in this instance, in this case, were there any limitations as far as confidentiality or anything that were put on you or any of your team?
What do you mean by confidentiality?
As far as who,
He's
what,
gonna get
where, and
smoked
how you
here.
discuss what you did?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly we just discussed with who we were retained by in this case. I don't believe I discussed the case with anybody else except for my cohorts who were also involved in the case.
And so my question, sir, more is geared towards, at some point you were made aware that your report and your findings were made available to both the prosecution and the defense in this case, correct?
I was made aware of that, yes, sir.
And when you were made aware
Paul, I think I'm going to go down there on Friday. I'm going to go down on Friday on my next day off. I'll go down in the morning and probably support. It just depends because I think it's supposed to be the Celtics parade that day. And if that is the case, I ain't going anywhere near Dedham. I'm sorry. I love all of you. But from where I live to get down there, not going to happen. So we just have to depend. I haven't heard the confirmed date of the Celtics parade, but if it is Friday, ain't happening because the traffic is going to be insane. But I'm hoping to get down there on Friday. Okay, let's go.
of that, was there any limitations on given to you as far as who you could discuss your report, your findings, or anything with?
You know, basically given the direction or the request that I don't
I'm not
actually
going.
discuss the substance of my opinions or my report with anybody aside from who we were originally retained to work for.
I gotta get my schedule out to Kat. Hopefully I can get in there one more time before everybody rests. I'd love to get back into court at least one more time if there's a spot. Yeah, I'm not gonna go there on Friday. Sorry guys and ladies, ain't gonna happen.
Now, may I approach you, Honor?
Yes.
Sir, I am going to show you the first couple pages of your report, specifically right down the bottom. There's a list of items.
Sure
1 through
is.
14 I asked you to
Very interesting, huh?
Okay.
Now, is that the totality of information that you and your firm were provided with in reference to what you did in this case?
I believe it was, yes, sir.
So nothing beyond that list of 14 things did you have occasion to look at, review, or have any opportunity to see at any time?
Well, aside from we did do testing in this case, so we did do other
Aside
work.
from your independent testing, I'm asking as far as material provided by whoever employed you, that is a sum and total of what you received, correct?
I believe that would be correct, yes, sir.
And did you personally review each of those 14 items? Because, and I don't fault you or your company for this, but within the report, there's a lot of we. So what I'm asking is, did you personally review each of those 14 items that are listed in that report?
I did personally review every bit and every page of information that was provided in this case, yes, sir.
And to be clear, just to sort of close the loop on this, when it comes to those 14 items, were you allowed to ask for any additional items, or was it just you were limited to this is what you have, go form an opinion?
There may have been discussion about if there's other information available, but I believe ultimately that we rendered our opinions obviously just on this specific information that was provided to us.
Now, as far as your opinion in your report, when was that issued?
February 12th of 2024.
So that date on the top of the report,
I'd like to get
February 12th, 2024, that's when you sent the report to the people that contracted you to do the analysis in the first.
Real quick, V, thank you for the $10 on Cash App. Says great work as usual. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Thank you. So we'll add $10 to the total. Good night, everybody. If you have to leave, I understand it's getting late, but we're going to wrap up here in a couple of minutes. Thank you.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
May I approach you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yes. Early in Tucson. It's getting late here. It's
Now,
almost
am I
midnight.
correct? And what I'm trying to ascertain here, Doctor, is just sort of the different roles that you and the other members of your team performed in reference to this. Am I correct in that your primary role in this pertains to sort of biomechanical engineering analysis of injuries sustained by Mr. O'Keefe?
That would be correct. Yes, sir.
And not to put too fine a point on it, Dr. Wolf would have been more responsible for issues related to the vehicle itself.
Generally speaking, yes, that would be correct.
Real quick, Charlie says, will you please show Emily D. Baker's rant about this on her last live? Starts at timestamp 240, and she says what we all are thinking. If you can find me the link, I'll pull it up. I just don't have time to fish for it. I've been kind of honest about this in the past. I don't really have a lot of time to watch other creators, but if you can certainly get me the link, email me the link. My email address is right here. I can definitely show that before I go off air tonight, but I do want to wrap up soon because it's midnight and I do have to work tomorrow. But if you can email me the link, I'll pull it up really quick. All right, let's get through the rest of this.
Obviously, there's some interaction between damage to the vehicle and injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, but as far as your primary sort of any opinions contained within this report pertaining to injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, those would be your opinions, correct?
Yes, any opinions or information with respect to the injuries would be my purview and my opinions in this matter. Yes, sir.
And comment on any opinions related to damage to the motor vehicle, those would be opinions of Dr. Wolf, is that right?
Well, to some extent. I mean, certainly I would have opinions as well based on the interaction or alleged interaction between the body and, for instance, the vehicle in this case, and what damage to both the body as well as the vehicle you would expect. So I think there's basically some overlap between those issues. I wouldn't say that it's a complete separation.
And so, and again, Doctor, what your opinions or ultimate conclusions are, whether they be yours or Dr. Wolf's or a combination of the two, it's all limited based on the information and the evidence that you received, correct?
It certainly is based on the information that we reviewed and listed in our report. Yes, sir.
Now, as far as for the
as far as
mandate or from the agency that hired you, were you asked to answer a specific question, or were you asked to just do an analysis based on what we sent you, or how was that put to you as far as what you were doing?
There was a specific request that we were asked to perform and to evaluate in this case.
Come on, bro.
And specifically what I'm asking, sir, is there's an analysis in there of whether or not the injuries to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head could have been caused from contact with the vehicle, correct?
That is part of my analysis and opinions, yes, sir.
And were you specifically asked to address or answer that question by the agency that hired you?
That was one of the questions I was specifically asked, yes, sir.
I have nothing further.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson?
Thank you.
All right, so Doctor, I have a couple of questions for you, sir. So regarding the specific request, what were you tasked to do specifically?
So specifically overall, I was tasked from the biomechanical standpoint to determine or see if it's possible to determine how the injuries in this case occurred. And part of that was determine whether the injuries, the head injury and the arm injuries resulted from contact with the Lexus in this case.
Wow.
Okay.
The guy
And
right
regarding
here.
all of your prior testimony, a good deal of it seems to be in depositions. Any of those in Massachusetts?
There's a couple, I believe. I've testified at trial in Massachusetts,
Okay.
Middlesex Superior Court.
Do you know where that might be? I do want to look at that.
I can find it for you, maybe a couple of months ago.
Was it in a criminal case or a civil case?
Oh, it was in civil case. I think, let's see here. I think, yeah. So let's see. There was one November 14th, 15th, 2023, Middlesex Superior Court. That
need to
was
look at it.
probably the most recent one.
Hey, what number is that on there if I want to go
that
back and
one-
look at it?
That is number 310.
Thank you. Is there
talking
another
over
Massachusetts case?
Oh, I'm sure there are because I know.
She just loves talking over people. Like, let the poor guy talk. Let him get his point out.
I know there's some from earlier in my career. Let me see. See if I can find them for you real quickly here. I'm gonna read this. So there's Connecticut. Swift, Louisiana. Oh, there's 68. I'm gonna butcher it. Worcester.
Is that a civil or criminal case, Doctor?
That is a civil case as well.
Okay. What year was that?
Oh, that one was 2012.
Okay. Any others that you think of or you see?
There may have been a couple others. I don't recall.
LED, thanks
All
for
right,
the
I'll
10.
go through it more closely. I
Sure.
appreciate you saving me some time.
Absolutely.
All right, any questions based on my
Yes.
questions?
No, thank you.
Absolutely, you can get a shout out. Shout out to, is it Rashad? Rashad, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And I appreciate you. Thank you. And I love the Worcester. He screws it up. He's I might butcher it. Ellie B, thanks for the 10. Appreciate you. Okay, let's see. Someone wanted me to pull up the Emily D. Baker testimony at 2:40. So I got to ask, is it 2 minutes and 40 seconds you want me to start with, or at 2 hours and 40 minutes? That's where I'm a little confused. You're going to have to help me out.
No. All right, you are all set, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. We'll pull away from this here, and I'll pull the Emily D. Baker up. So do you want me to do it from 2 minutes and 40 seconds or 2 hours? 2 hours. Okay. Let's find it. to, it's going to be probably right here.
Fascinated.
Emily, I hope you don't mind that I play your live. I give you full credit. Please go watch the masterful Emily D. Baker. I do get to peek in on her lives. She's awesome. And Emily, if you ever see this and you want to come hang out on LTL Media, I would love for you to come here and break down some of this courtroom testimony with us. All right, we'll play this. I hope she doesn't mind. Please, if you haven't, go over and subscribe to Emily D. Baker, but I'm sure you all know who she is. Okay, let's play this.
Sir, are you going to ask, did they give you all the information? Just
Good guess.
Just a few questions for you, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Now, with relation to your work in this instance, in this case, were there any limitations as far as confidentiality or anything that were put on you or any of your team?
What do you mean by confidentiality?
As far as who, what, where, and
security
how you
clearance.
discuss, what you did.
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly we just discussed with who we were retained by in this case. I don't believe I discussed the case with anybody else except for my cohorts who were also involved in the case.
You didn't send a whole bunch of text messages to your high school buddies and be like, you're never going to believe this grand jury that's going on? Sir, what? I thought that was standard. Emily, too sarcastic. It's early.
I'm going to tell you, I have some streams lined up. It's just coordinating the guests, but I have things on the works. It's just getting those guests lined up on time. Believe me, I got a big, huge show that I'm trying to put together right now. If I can make it happen, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to try to make it happen next week, but it's just lining up the guests at the specific times that we can all coordinate. So, Hank, bear with me. It's going to happen. All right, let's listen to Emily a little bit, and then I do want to go to bed. I'm getting tired here. I've been almost up for 3 hours on the live.
And so my question, sir, more is geared towards, at some point you were made aware that your report and your findings were made available to both the prosecution and the defense in this case, correct?
I was made aware of that, yes, sir.
And when you were made aware of that, was there any limitations on given to you as far as who you could discuss
back in the
your
studio
report
on
or
Friday.
findings or anything with?
Yeah, basically, given the direction or the request that I don't actually discuss the substance of my opinions or my report with anybody aside from who we were originally retained to work for.
Now, may I approach you on?
Yes.
Sir, I am going to show you the first couple pages of your report, specifically right down the bottom. There's a list of items 1 through 14. I asked you to review those.
Those are the items he would have reviewed, I would imagine. Law nerds, welcome to welcome to Voir Beer Day.
Totality of information that you and your firm
Just
were
going to take a minute
provided
to
with in
remind you to
reference
get the Law Nerd app if you
what
couldn't
did
get
in
it
this case.
yesterday.
I believe it was, yes, sir.
We broke it.
So nothing
It's back.
beyond that list of 14 things did you have occasion to look at, review, or have any opportunity to see at any time?
Well, aside from we did do testing in this case, so we did do other
Aside
work.
from your independent testing, I'm asking as far as material provided by whoever employed you, that is.
Lally, this witness is eminently likable. More likable than a lot of engineer witnesses. He is personable. He speaks at a level that is understandable without being condescending. This is a very likable witness. If you have not already pissed off this jury with what, if anything, sort of where did you sit in the bleachers at the fucking Canton basketball game, going after this witness is danger, because you are going to piss off the jurors who just are there to find the facts. And I imagine that what they would like more than anything, because that's what I see from 40,000 people day in and day out, is they would like to understand what the fuck happened to John O'Keefe. Not what Jen McCabe did on her phone.
Emily, good stuff.
But what happened to John O'Keefe and investigation did to solve it. Everybody just wants some answers.
Yeah.
And if you start snipping at the witness who is there to provide some clear testimony,
good for you.
It is going to turn out badly for you. This is not the one. This is not the one for an aggressive cross. This is the one for a minimally aggressive cross because he is likable, qualified, and neutral.
The sum and total of what you received, correct?
I believe that would be correct, yes, sir.
And did you personally review each of those 14 items? Because, and I don't fault you.
Okay, I would love to play more, but it's late and I've been up since 6 o'clock this morning and I worked all day. So I am tired. Thank you for sharing that with me, for me to be able to play that. That was really great. I did not know that she said that, and I thought that was a great statement. Couldn't have said it any better. Mary's got the total here. So we're at 1,075. That's going to be 269, 268.75. I'm going to round that to 270 because I like rounded off numbers. So we'll go to 270 for Karen tonight. I will make that donation immediately when I get offline here, and then I'm going to head to bed because I am tired. Friday, I will be back live, back in the studio permanently. Then I can start booking live guests. Friday night, I will have Jess Machado in, courtroom correspondent that will be here. She's going to be in courtroom for the next 2 days in the Karen Reed trial. We will get her take on that. And I love that she can always provide feedback about the jury because that is very, very important, that we understand what's going on with the jury. So we will end that there tonight. So thank you so much for sharing that. I thought it was awesome. And maybe someday down the road, or I don't know, soon I can get Emily on the channel. That would be great to have her over here. So that's going to be it. Thank you. I will get that donation posted up tonight and post it in all of the areas to be vetted and be transparent with everybody. So thank you all. I see all the great jobs. Good night. Good night. Thanks for being here. I think we had like 1,500 people at one time. And I appreciate all of the donations that came in tonight. It helps Karen out and helps keep this channel going. So I do appreciate that. Let me see. I had another $5 Cash App before we went off air. Tyrone says, for health and health is first, brother. Great show. Free Karen Reed. So we'll add another $5. I think that's going to round us up to the 270. We'll keep that there. Thank you, Tyrone. I appreciate it. All right, everybody. I'm going to head out. Good night. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. I love all of you. I will be back Friday night. Hopefully you can join the show. I'd love you to come over here. If you haven't heard Jess Machado, and give her all the warm welcomes as well, too, because she gives us that perspective inside the courtroom and sees the jurors firsthand when she's in there. So I'll see you all on Friday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Get some rest. I love all of you. Appreciate you. And thanks for supporting LTL Media. All right, everybody. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Take the change and set the trap.